Chapter 479. Before I invited you to this show, I noticed that there were a lot of rumors on the internet. Shan Shuling's pair of phoenix eyes stared at Lu Chan without blinking. Her voice was so pleasant from beginning to end, but the taste in her words was not necessarily gentle and harmless. Someone said on a blog that the new support policy issued by the Hong Kong government could bring back the glory of the Hong Kong film industry. But first of all, it has attracted the wolves, which will undoubtedly have an impact on the Hong Kong film industry and further intensify the fierce competition. He suggested that the Hong Kong government should adjust the policy and impose restrictions on foreign actors. So, Lu Chan, do you think that you are also a member of the wolves? Or do you have any opinion on this? In the show, Shan Shuling was the host, and she was also the topic guide. Maybe she didn't take any position, but she interacted with the guests objectively and neutrally. However, this didn't mean that she didn't touch on sensitive topics. On the contrary, she was consciously driving the atmosphere of the conversation and creating conflicts and arguments. This was the first topic that Zhuang Dong brought up. He was undoubtedly a supporter of this sensitive topic. Seeing that Shan Shuling brought the fire of war to Lu Chan, a faint smile appeared on his face, as if he was watching a good show. In Zhuang Dong's eyes, Lu Chan was very young, which meant that he lacked enough experience, shrewdness, and adaptability. Moreover, Lu Chan had just come from the mainland, so he must be very unfamiliar with Hong Kong. Shan Shuling's question was very tricky, and it also touched on the sensitive side of Hong Kong people. If Lu Chen's answer was slightly appropriate, then his interview that night would be a failure. In other words, Zhuang Dong would win without a fight, and it would be an easy victory. In fact, it was not good to win too easily. Zhuang Dong even had a little regret. The real victory should be crushing the opponent in a fierce battle. Lu Chan pondered for a moment as if he was thinking. It seemed that this question had really stumped him, which made Zhuang Dong more and more proud. But the audience sitting in front of the TV and watching this show had a different feeling. A Kang's sister complained. Really, how can you ask such an outrageous question? How do you expect people to answer? She was really infatuated with Lu Chen's handsomeness and instinctively spoke up for Lu Chan. A Kang sympathized with Lu Chan. If he had been questioned like this, he would have behaved even worse. In his heart, A Kang agreed with the wolves. When he worked in the company, he often heard from his colleagues that the reason why the market was so bad, the prices were so high, and the housing prices were so expensive were mainly because of the mainland. Mainlanders came to Xiangjiang to shop and buy real estate in Xiangjiang because the mainlanders took over the Xiangjiang company's business. Now it was the movie industry's turn. What was the Hong Kong government thinking? Why didn't they think more about the locals? As the saying went, don't let the goodies flow to your own fields. His mind was a mess of thoughts, and then he thought of Xiaowei. I wonder if Xiaowei will be very angry? Just then, Lu Chan spoke on the TV screen. He looked very serious and said, I think I and my colleagues from the mainland are not wolves. If you want a metaphor, I think I would like to be a catfish. Catfish? Shan Shuling was surprised. Why do you want to be a catfish? She felt that this metaphor was very strange. Lu Chan smiled slightly. His smile was sunny and brilliant, which made Shan Shuling feel a little excited. He said, Let me tell you a story first. A long time ago, Norwegians liked to eat sardines, especially fresh sardines. But there were no aerators at that time, and the fishermen had to go out to sea to catch sardines for a long time. The sardines raised in the cabin did not like to move, and they often died on the way back to the port, so they could not be sold at a good price. But people found that many of the sardines caught by a fisherman were still alive, and he could always sell them at a high price. This secret was not revealed until the fisherman died. Lu Chan told the story in detail, and there was suspense. Not only did Shan Shuling listen attentively, even Zhuang Dong was curious. He wanted to see what Lu Chan was up to. Lu Chan continued. It turned out that the fisherman raised a catfish in the cabin. Among the sardines there was an extra fierce creature. They would swim and dodge instinctively, and they maintained their vitality. Finally, many of them survived to the port. After the story was finished, Shan Shuling, Zhuang Dong, and many of the audience in front of the TV faintly understood. This also included the audience at the recording site, and the atmosphere in the studio became very subtle. Lu Chan continued. It can be said that I grew up watching Xiangjiang movies and TV dramas, mainly the Xiangjiang movies of the 1990s. There are many real classics, such as Big Lawyer, True Love of the World, Hong Kong Hero, Life and Death Rescue, and so on. Shan Shuling laughed and said, "Then you must be a fan of Lu Gangsheng." Lu Chan also laughed, nodded and said calmly, "Yes, the wish that I want to realize in Xiangjiang includes meeting my idol, and being able to say a few words to him." Shan Shuling laughed. "Then your wish will definitely come true." Lu Chen's admiration and respect for Lu Gangsheng made the Xiangjiang audience in front of the TV suddenly have a better impression of him. Lu Gangsheng could be said to be the symbol and representative of the Xiangjiang people's hard work. His legendary life experience, who knew how many Xiangjiang young people to work hard. His songs and films all had a profound influence in Xiangjiang. Lu Chan said, "At that time when Xiangjiang's classic movies and TV dramas were broadcast in the mainland, they could all win very high box office and ratings, especially TV dramas. It was not an exaggeration to say that tens of thousands of people turned out to watch them. But now, how much market does Xiangjiang's movies and TV dramas still have in the mainland?" A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the fierce counterattack was hidden in the implicit words. "As far as I know, I'm afraid there is not even 1% left." Shan Shuling was silent. The muscles on Zhuangdong's face twitched. He wanted to refute but found that he was unable to refute. Because what Lu Chun said was completely right. The once glorious Xiangjiang film and TV had long lost the ability to summon wind and rain in the mainland, and could only fight in their own territory and the traditional market in Southeast Asia. Lu Chen's words ruthlessly revealed the current situation of Xiangjiang's film and TV industry. Combined with the story he told before, anyone with a little bit of intelligence could understand what he wanted to express. Xiangjiang's film and TV industry was like sardines crowded in a narrow cabin, and they would die sooner or later, unless there was a catfish that stimulated them. Chapter 480. The story of catfish originated from Lu Chen's dream world memory. In the dream world, there was a special term called catfish effect, which meant introducing competition to stimulate the vitality of enterprises or industries. The story itself was actually fabricated, not real. Lu Chun used this fresh story that did not exist in this world to debate. It was undoubtedly very vivid and brilliant. Everyone could understand it and understand his meaning. Most importantly, Hong Kong's film and television industry was in urgent need of a real reform. The last glory of Hong Kong's film and television industry was in the 1990s, and it began to decline after entering the new century. Hong Kong's practitioners clung to the glory of the past and did not want to make progress. They did not realize the great changes in the market with the advent of the internet and were finally abandoned by the market. Now, although Hong Kong's film and television industry was still very developed, its influence was far less than before. What was worse was that the themes of the films and TV series were successful. Plagiarism and imitation were common on the screen, and the content of sh*t and sh*t had not changed for 10 years. Even Hong Kong's audience was beginning to get tired of it. How could they still hold the territory of the mainland and Southeast Asian markets? The future of the industry was in danger, so the Hong Kong government cooperated with the relevant domestic departments to issue support policies to allow mainland film and television companies to invest in Hong Kong and share preferential support. To put it bluntly, it was to stimulate the local practitioners. It was ridiculous that some people in the circle did not reflect on their own problems and blindly rejected foreign competition. In the end, they would die together like sardines. In fact, there were also many problems in the mainland's film and television industry, but the prevalence of big IPs brought prosperity to the market, and the film box office rose year by year. If Hong Kong wanted to regain its glory, it had to control the mainland market again. Regarding this problem, Lu Chan simply said it openly and did not avoid it. The biggest problem of Xiangjiang's film and TV series is the lack of popular IP and fresh creativity. Xiangjiang does not lack talents in the film and TV field, nor does it lack channels and resources, and has accumulated rich experience for decades, but now it has fallen behind the times. Hearing his words, many TV viewers nodded secretly. People in Hong Kong liked watching movies very much. According to statistics, on average every person in Hong Kong spent more than 300 yuan on movies every year, which was a box office of 3 to 4 billion yuan, not including other expenses in the cinema. However, many people in Hong Kong, especially young people, liked and enthusiastically pursued Hollywood blockbusters, as well as Japanese and Korean movies or TV series. Shen Shuling asked, "Is this the reason why you chose to come to Hong Kong to make a movie?" Lu Chan said that he wanted to be a catfish in the Xiangjiang film and television industry. The most direct way to express it was definitely the new movie he was going to shoot. Otherwise, it would just be empty talk. "One of the reasons," Lu Chan nodded without hesitation and said confidently, "this movie of mine will be an innovative and thoughtful work." Needless to say, Lu Chen's personal image was tall, handsome, and full of masculinity. As he continued to achieve achievements and improve his status in the industry, he naturally had a confident temperament that made people believe in him and trust him. His confidence not only affected the people present, but it could also be felt by the audience through the screen. In Ah Kang's room, his sister screamed and hugged her brother's arm tightly. She shook it hard and said, "Lu Chen is so handsome. I hereby announce that from today onwards, I am a fan of Lu Chen." Ah Kang couldn't help rolling his eyes and feeling sour in his heart. Xiaowei liked Lu Chen, and his sister became a fan of Lu Chen. The charm of this mainland artist was too great. Although he had to admit that Lu Chen, who was sitting on the set and talking with confidence at this moment, was very handsome and outstanding. Among the younger generation of Hong Kong artists, there were not many who could be compared with him. Zhuang Dong was very unconvinced and couldn't help but say, "If I remember correctly, this is your first movie?" The implication was that he dared to boast about his first movie. Wasn't he afraid of being cut by the wind? Lu Chen smiled faintly and said, "I debuted last year, and my first album sold more than 3 million copies. The first TV series I created and starred in broke 3% of the domestic audience rating and exceeded 30% in South Korea." Zhuang Dong was speechless without the need for a heavy hammer to strike the drum. His first album sold triple platinum, and his first TV series broke 3% of the mainland audience rating. It was also a great success in South Korea. Such dazzling achievements were beyond Lu Gongxing's reach in the first few years of his debut. What qualifications did Zhuang Dong have to think that Lu Chen's first movie would not be good? Lu Chen took the opportunity to advertise his new film, "Welcome to my first film, a Chinese ghost story," at that time. "Please give me more valuable comments." In fact, Lu Chen was quite wronged when he was bombarded on Three Men in Entertainment this time, because before him, many domestic film and television companies had already gone to Hong Kong to prepare to shoot movies. These film and television companies were far more famous and powerful than the newly established Lu Chen's Hong Kong studio. As a result, it was the latter who was shot down. Although he vigorously fought back against those unfavorable comments on the show, Lu Chen still wanted to get back some money. Shen Shuling couldn't help laughing. Although it was normal for stars to advertise their records or movies on the show, it was rare for Lu Chen to do it so openly. However, this showed his frankness and frankness. Shen Shuling said with a smile, "When your new movie is released, I will definitely support you with a movie ticket." Lu Chen put his palms together to express his gratitude. "Thank you, Sister Shen. Well, can you take your husband with you?" Shen Shuling laughed heartily. She was really amused. The same laughter sounded in the audience, and the atmosphere in the studio became extraordinarily harmonious, and the original sense of hostility disappeared. At this moment, when Three Men in Entertainment was broadcast, Shen Shuling was sitting in the director's room and paying attention to the ratings of her latest episode of hosting. She saw her overjoyed look on the monitor, and a smile appeared on her face again. Now in retrospect, there were still many things that could be discovered from Lu Chen, but unfortunately the time was too short. Ring ring, the phone in the director's room suddenly rang, and a staff member immediately picked it up. He said a few words into the microphone, and then stretched out his right hand to Shen Shuling, spreading his 5 fingers. 5%. Even though she had many years of experience in hosting, and was used to great storms, Shen Shuling's heart jumped fiercely. The staff member told her through gestures that the ratings of this episode of Three Men in Entertainment had reached 5%, far exceeding the normal average of about 3%. Absolutely successful. Chapter 481. Xiangjiang was one of the 3 major special administrative regions. Whether it was the area or the resident population, it was far inferior to the capital, but the population density was big, surpassing the latter. The economy was developed, trade was prosperous, and the media was abundant. There were two major wireless hegemons in the TV station alone, Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV, and many small and medium-sized cable TV stations, so the competition for program content was very fierce. Even a difference of 0.1% in the ratings could cause a difference of several places. Although Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV steadily occupied 2 out of 3 parts of the world, and the common market share of the two had never been less than 70% in recent years, they had also been strongly challenged by Pearl TV and Hong Kong cable TV. Whether it was program resources or ratings, they had been eroded little by little. There was no need to mention the competition between Xiangjiang Satellite TV and ATV. The grudges between the two major TV stations could shoot a long TV series with hundreds of episodes. In terms of ratings, they had long been competing. The veteran ATV had not gained the upper hand in this confrontation between the giants in recent years. There were also many problems within ATV. The competition for resources between the channels was very fierce, and the internal friction was serious. As one of the trump card programs of the Variety Channel, the 3 in Entertainment was also facing a severe test. As a variety talk show broadcast during prime time, the average audience rating of the 3 in Entertainment was around 3%, but this figure was calculated based on the audience rating of 10 years. If it was shortened to the last 3 years, then it would fall to around 2%, sometimes even lower than 2%. This was undoubtedly a dangerous sign. Shen Shuling, who hosted the 3 in Entertainment, was well aware of this. She also tried her best to improve the quality of the content of the program. She did not want to end up being axed in the end. The market was extremely cruel, and ATV was also a charity home for the elderly. A group of newcomers were eyeing her covetously. Shen Shuling looked very impressive on the surface, but in fact she had always been trembling with fear. It was precisely because of this that she boldly went against the opinions of the public and invited the recent hot topic, Lu Chan, on the 3 in Entertainment, to discuss the new film support policies of the Hong Kong government. At that time, the program team, including many people in the station, thought that Lu Chan was a new artist who had just come from the mainland and had no popularity base in Xiangjiang. With his identity and status, he did not meet the requirements of the 3 in Entertainment. They were worried that he would be criticized by the audience and people in the circle. However, it turned out that Shen Shuling's risk was right. Maybe the audience in Xiangjiang was very interested in this handsome star from the mainland, or maybe the competition brought about by the new movie support policy touched the sensitive points of many people. The ratings of the program actually rose steadily, and when it was near the end it broke through 5%. 5%. This was quite an amazing result, enough to be comparable to those real big-name programs. The last time Entertainment 3 People Talk reached this rating was the result of inviting the heavenly queen of film, television and song Yen and I. Not only did Lu Chan on the 3 in not lower the level of the program, but it had of the program of the big stars. The program had also brought the program to of stars. Not only did the program of the 3 in programs of the program of the program of the program of the show, but also brought. Instead Shen Shuling believed that his handsomeness, temperament, and style of conversation would inevitably become a hot topic. The host of the ATV program seemed to see a new star rising in the sky of Xiangjiang. The program was still going on, but it was coming to an end. Shen Shuling said, "Actually, the first time I met Lu Chan was on a Hong Kong blog, and then someone forwarded the video to me. At that time you were in a bar in Lan Kwai Fong, right?" Lu Chan nodded. "Yes, that was the first time I came to Xiangjiang. My friend recommended Lan Kwai Fong to me." Shen Shuling said with a smile, "Then you participated in the La Dolce Vita 97 singing competition, and sang the song that everyone is familiar with, The Love of My Life. I heard that you wrote this song yourself. Is it for your girlfriend?" Lu Chan nodded. "Yes. The first part of the program was almost a debate session, and there were more disputes and conflicts. Now that it was almost the end, the atmosphere was relaxed, so it was time to talk about gossip." Shen Shuling controlled the rhythm of the conversation very well. Of course, he was also happy to cooperate. The only one who was not happy was probably the other guest, Zhuang Dong. Ever since he was hit by Lu Chen's several consecutive counterattacks, he was basically silent and no longer aggressive. Everyone's eyes were sharp. They had to admit that they lost the debate. If they continued to pester endlessly, they would only make a fool of themselves in front of the public and become a joke to their opponents. Shen Shuling obviously also noticed Zhuangdong's predicament, so she changed to a relaxed topic. She turned to face the camera and said with a smile, "Many of our friends in front of the TV may not know, but Mr. Lu Chen's girlfriend is the domestic pop music queen, Miss Chan Fei. Moreover, Miss Chan Fei's 2 recent TV series have created miracles both at home and abroad. It must be noted that the screenwriter and male lead of these 2 TV series are both Lu Chan. Then Lu Chan in your first movie, is the female lead still Miss Chan Fei?" This time Lu Chan shook his head. "No, the female lead is a new actress from Xiangjiang. In addition to the male lead and the director of a Chinese ghost story, most of the other actors are from the same industry in Xiangjiang, including our partners. The new film support policy issued by the Xiangjiang government had restrictions. For example, in the movies submitted for review, local actors in Xiangjiang needed to account for more than 60%. This was a hard rule. However, the main reason why Chen Fei was not chosen for a Chinese ghost story was because of the schedule." Shen Shuling said. "Then we will wait and see and look forward to the screening of your movie. In addition, at the end of the program, can you respond to the audience's call and sing The Love of My Life again here?" She added. "I also like this song very much." Lu Chen was pleased. "Thank you. Of course, that's no problem. This was arranged in advance by the program team." It was not a sudden attack on Lu Chen. He had already expected it. Without the official release of the official version of The Love of My Life, only relying on a mobile phone video had almost become Lu Chen's current label. This classic Cantonese song had helped him to integrate into the entertainment industry of Xiangjiang to a large extent. It had an influence among the young people of Xiangjiang and could be considered to have played the greatest role. Therefore, this episode of Entertainment Talk with 3 People ended with Lu Chen playing the piano and singing The Love of My Life. After the program was officially broadcast, it caused a great response both inside and outside the circle of Xiangjiang. Chapter 482. November 25th, Tianda Zodiac Founding Day. Good for opening a business, seeking wealth, trading, traveling, moving, dating. The opening ceremony of Lu Chen's first film, a Chinese ghost story, was held in the famed temple of the Lion Rock Film and Television City. The famed temple of the Lion Rock Film and Television City was an old site. It was first built in the late Qing dynasty. Later, it was abandoned after 2 disasters. The ruins were overgrown with weeds, and it became a safe haven for wild foxes. In the early 1990s, when the Lion Rock Film and Television City began to build, the old site of the famed temple was included. The scene designer did not restore and rebuild it, but renovated it on the basis of the ruins, making it an excellent scene for shooting zombie and horror films. Many of the Xiangjiang zombie and ghost films that were popular in the 1990s were shot here. But now, due to the changes in the market, the popular themes in the past were no longer popular, and the utilization of the old site of the famed temple had decreased a lot. Therefore, it was easy for the studio to rent it at a low cost. There was a long table in front of the temple, which was used to worship gods. It was covered with red velvet, with a statue of Emperor Guan in the middle. On the left and right sides were incense burners, roast suckling pigs, fresh fruits, and so on. A camera was placed on the right side of the table, also covered with a red cloth so that no one could see it. In the open space a little further away, firecrackers were lit. Then in the crackling sound, the crew members burned incense and worshipped the gods in turn, praying for a smooth shooting and the new film to be a hit. The ceremony of worshipping gods first originated in Hong Kong. People in Hong Kong believed in feng shui superstitions and liked to pray for good luck. The practice of worshipping gods and Buddha was very popular, and the film crew was no exception. There were many taboos. For example, the direction in which they prayed to the gods could not be wrong. At different times and different locations, everyone prayed to the gods in different directions. Roughly speaking, they had to pay attention to all directions. If they were to place it in the southwest instead of the south, there would be a difference of thousands of miles. Some of them even had to be accurate down to the latitude and longitude. It sounded incredible, but many Xiangjiang film crews had to invite experts to calculate before they started shooting, and they were not careless at all. Otherwise, if there were any twists and turns during the shooting process, they would inevitably suspect that they had encountered some bad luck. Luchan Studio had just been established, and its partner Jiang Pictures was not a top company in the industry. Therefore, the opening ceremony was not very big, but it was also very grand. Zhou Yi, the behind-the-scenes boss of Jiang Pictures, personally came to the scene. Of course, he accompanied his cousin, Nie Mingzhu, the heroine of a Chinese ghost story. Mrs. Jin also came, together with her two goddaughters, Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan. The two girls had arranged a small role in the film. Chen Wenxiang's daughter and Chen Si. Chen Xiaoyi Chen Studio. After he graduated in Studio and Ao and Chen in Studio Chan 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 and Wen in Studio Wu Wu Wen Chan Chen Studio and Chan Yang Studio and Wen Chen Studio Chan Chan Chen 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 Studio and Chen Yan Chen Chen Yan and Chan. Chen Si played the role of Xiaoqing in a Chinese ghost story, a supporting female character with some weight. In fact, in the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, there were only 4 important characters: Ning Kaichen, Nie Xiaoqian, Yin Qixia, and the villain Granny Tree Fairy. Basically, all the limelight was focused on them, especially the first 3. As the first supporting female character, Xiaoqing did not have many scenes in the movie, but both Chen Wenxiang and Chen Si were extremely satisfied. Other than Lu Chan, there were no other big-name actors in the movie. Ma Rongzhen had long been outdated and reduced to being an extra, and most of the others were newcomers. Lu Chen himself had just made a name for himself in the film and television industry in Hong Kong, and he did not rely on the work itself. However, the investment of A Chinese Ghost Story was as high as 30 million yuan. Although it was not a top-notch production, it was precisely because there were no big names that there was no high salary. This large sum of money had to be invested in filming and post-production. It would be unfair if it did not produce a high-quality product. Chen Si was already extremely lucky compared to her peers to be able to get such an important supporting female role in a movie for the first time. She was standing at a very high starting point from the beginning. As long as A Chinese Ghost Story did not fail miserably after it was released, she would have valuable qualifications. Seniority represented status. After offering incense and worshipping the gods, Lu Chan, Zhou Yi Wan Xiaoquan, and Nie Mingzhu worked together to remove the red veil on the camera. The crew members gathered around applauded in unison, and there were also media reporters taking photos. It was said that this procedure originated from the fear of scratching. The so-called scratching referred to the film in the early days of the film era, when the film in the camera was accidentally scratched by the parts inside during filming. Once scratching occurred, it would cause immeasurable losses to the crew. However, machine scratching was unpredictable and difficult to prevent, so the only thing that could be done was to cover the camera with a red cloth to suppress evil. Nowadays, cameras had already been digitized, so there was no possibility of scratching. However, the more precise something was, the greater the problem, so this custom was still retained. After the red cloth was removed, the opening ceremony of A Chinese Ghost Story was basically over. Finally, it was time for the representatives of the crew to be interviewed by the media. Most of the media reporters were invited by Jiang Pictures. There were more than a dozen of them, both big and small. They were there to support and to promote the film. Every reporter was stuffed with red packets. If a film and television entertainment company wanted to gain a foothold in Hong Kong, they could not afford to offend the people in the media. Otherwise, they would scold them all day on TV and newspapers, or make up some false rumors. Then, they would not be able to make money. Of course, it was impossible to please all the media. Jiang Pictures was a well-known film and television production company, and its boss Zhou Yi was a businessman in Hong Kong. He did not lack connections in the relevant media. However, there was a portion of the media that came uninvited. These reporters were obviously very interested in Lu Chan, so after the opening ceremony ended, they immediately surrounded him and asked him questions. Mr. Lu Chan, are you going to use this film to change the structure of Hong Kong's film industry? Why do you have such confidence and certainty? If this film flops, what are you going to do? Return to the mainland? Mr. Lu Chan, as far as I know, none of the actors in this film are big names. May I ask? The reporters' questions were like a machine gun, and all of them were aggressive. Chen Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan, who were standing at the side, had their faces turned black on the spot. Zhou Yi was very shrewd. and there was a hint of displeasure in his eyes. Chapter 483. The entertainment reporters of Xiangjiang were the existences that the Xiangjiang entertainment circle loved and hated. They could praise an artist to the sky, but they could also easily pull them down from the sky. Many Xiangjiang celebrities had a kind of fear towards entertainment reporters. In Xiangjiang, how to properly deal with entertainment reporters was a compulsory course for all new artists. If they failed this course, they would suffer sooner or later. There were many examples in the past that could prove it. As soon as the opening ceremony of a Chinese ghost story ended, Lu Chan was surrounded by these uninvited entertainment reporters. The questions were more tricky and even worse. This made people feel worried because Lu Chan was a star from the mainland. He had only debuted for a short time, so he definitely had not experienced such a scene. Once his youthful temperament flared up, the consequences would be unpredictable. With the nature of Xiangjiang's media, a small matter could be blown up into 10. They were not easy to deal with. Chen Wenxiang saw that the situation was not good and quickly gave Zhang Xiaofeng a look. He was ready to step forward to protect Lu Chan and separate him from the entertainment reporters to prevent Lu Chan from saying the wrong thing. However, Lu Chan did not panic at all. Even when he heard the obviously malicious questions, he still had a calm smile on his face, looking extremely calm. A few days ago at Xiangjiang Airport, Lu Chan had already seen a similar scene and had a direct understanding of Xiangjiang's paparazzi. He pondered for a moment and said to the microphone that was sent to his mouth, "There is no such thing as failure in my dictionary. I believe that this, a Chinese ghost story, will definitely be a success. As for whether it can change the pattern of Xiangjiang's movies, I don't dare to boast. Just as I said in ATV's entertainment trio, I want to be a catfish. A catfish is not a crocodile, and I don't have that big of an appetite. As for the quality of the movie, you are very welcome to go to the cinema to watch and evaluate it. You can leave your contact information here. Our studio will give you free tickets and premiere gifts." Lu Chen's answer could be said to be a combination of words and actions. He cleverly avoided the trap of the reporter's question, but he also fully demonstrated his confidence. In the end, he did not forget to give some benefits. Whether it was Chen Wenxiang or Zhou Yi, the heavy burden in their hearts was instantly lifted. Most of the time, Lu Chen's youth made people feel uneasy, but in reality he had never disappointed them. There is no such thing as failure in my dictionary. This sentence was absolutely domineering. When the entertainment reporters heard it, their eyes lit up, as if they had grasped something important. One of them eagerly asked, "The investment for a Chinese ghost story is said to be 30 million yuan. Although it's not considered a top-notch production, it's still considered very high. Since the investment is so high, why don't I see any stars in the movie? Is it because you can't get him, or is the pay all on your own? Or is 30 million just a bluff?" Before the launch ceremony, Lu Chen's Hong Kong studio and Jiayong Pictures announced the news related to a Chinese ghost story on their respective blogs, including the investment amount and the cast. The reporter questioned Lu Chan aggressively about the 30 million budget. Lu Chan took a deep look at him and asked, "May I ask which media are you from?" The other party replied proudly, "I'm a reporter from Polo Daily." Polo Daily? Lu Chan had an impression of this Hong Kong newspaper. He smiled faintly and said, "First of all, I'm acting in a Chinese ghost story for free, so there's no problem of me spending the budget on myself. A common method for stars to invest in movies or TV series was to sign a high salary for themselves. On the one hand, it was to increase their value, and on the other hand, it was also to increase the investment amount as a publicity point. For example, Lu Chen's real value was 10 million yuan, but it became 50 million yuan through left-handed publicity. Many star artists, including some big stars, did this, and investors were happy to cooperate. However, in the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, Lu Chan did the opposite. He did not take a penny, and his goal was to use more of the budget on pre-filming and post-production. Zero salary? The budget was used on filming and production. The expressions of the entertainment reporters present couldn't help but be a little strange. In the film and television industry, such a thing could not be said to be unique, but it was also a rare existence now. Nowadays, Hong Kong's movies either took the low-budget, vulgar path or were blockbusters with big stars. There were really very few people who could sink down and seriously produce a movie. Some of them had already been eliminated by the market. The young man in front of them really gave everyone a different feeling. The reporter from Polo Daily did not give up. He was rejected on the budget issue, so he suddenly changed the topic and pointed his spear at Ma Rongqing, who was standing next to him. As far as I know, Mr. Ma Rongqing is a famous box office poison in the circle. Why did you invite him to play an important supporting role in this movie? The nickname box office poison was obtained by Ma Rongqing in the later stage of his acting career. At that time, the movies he participated in were losing money, but it was maliciously imposed on him. In fact, at that time, Hong Kong's movies were going downhill. Ma Rongqing's type was relatively fixed, and the roles he was invited to play were basically the same. The theme itself was not good, and coupled with the environment, it was strange that he did not fail. However, after the nickname spread, Ma Rongqing's acting career was basically ruined. No one invited him to act in movies anymore, so his situation was getting worse and worse. He had to be reduced to working as a handyman in Lion Rock to make a living. In front of everyone, the reporter from Polo Daily opened Ma Rongqing's scar, which made Ma Rongqing's face suddenly turn red. He couldn't help clenching his fists. His knuckles turned white because of the excessive force, but he lowered his head. Because he couldn't do anything, whether to refute or fight back, he would only fall into the other party's trap. Ma Rongqing didn't want to lose this precious opportunity, so he could only silently endure the humiliation. Lu Chan noticed Ma Rongqing's expression, and his eyes flashed with an imperceptible sharpness. He said without hesitation, "I have never heard of box office poison. In my eyes, there are only good actors and bad actors, and Ma Rongqing is an excellent and dedicated actor. I believe that he will be able to play the important role of Yan Qixia well. This is why I invited him." Lu Chen's words were sonorous and powerful, with unshakable firmness. It was his strong support for Ma Rongqing. It was also a powerful counterattack to the reporter with ulterior motives. Ma Rongqing couldn't help but straighten his back and raise his head again. At this moment, his heart was filled with the feeling of, a gentleman would die for a bosom friend. Chapter 484. Mainland star Lu Chan shoots new film for zero pay? Is it real or just hype? Lu Chan supports Ma Rongqing. Is salted fish about to make a comeback? Industry insiders assert that mainland actors are afraid of not acclimatizing to Hong Kong, and their prospects are worrying. Is it arrogance or confidence? Is an investment of 30 million yuan a waste of water? The box office poison of the past is shooting a new film today. On the second day after A Chinese Ghost Story officially started shooting, many media and entertainment pages in Xiangjiang published relevant news. Other than a few paid news, most of the other newspapers and periodicals were full of doubts. Such a situation would basically not happen in the mainland. Xiangjiang's territory was small, and the size of the market was limited. There were many media and most of them only paid attention to Hong Kong news. There were not that many gossip news in the entertainment industry to hype. Therefore, Lu Chan, who had recently become the focus of attention, inevitably became the target of some media. The pressure of public opinion he faced was actually related to the mentality of many Hong Kong people. Many people in Xiangjiang believed that the entry of mainland funds and enterprises would intensify competition and snatch the jobs of local people. Although Lu Chan threw out the catfish theory in 3 Entertainment Men Talk and dispelled the doubts of some people, the influence of the program was limited after all. He still needed to prove himself with more facts. For some of the Xiangjiang media who were eager to see the world in chaos, Lu Chan had become the representative of the mainland film and television industry in Xiangjiang. They were desperately trying to dig out topics from him. Among them, the fiercest was the Polo Daily. This well-known newspaper in Xiangjiang published 3 reports in its entertainment section at the same time, questioning Lu Chen's zero pay, ridiculing the box office poison Ma Rongqing, and asserting that A Chinese Ghost Story would not be successful. One of the articles listed the data seriously and quoted the analysis and comments of so-called industry experts. In the end, the conclusion was that the mainlanders represented by Lu Chan would not be able to gain a foothold in Xiangjiang's entertainment industry for long. There were many criticisms and few praises. There were very few neutral people. The citizens of Xiangjiang watched the liveliness, and to a large extent, it promoted A Chinese Ghost Story, which had just started shooting. The crew of A Chinese Ghost Story who had already entered the shooting state, had no time to care about the outside world. They were busy working on the set of Lion Rock Film City, trying to finish shooting before the new year. Crack! Wan Xiaoquan frowned, waved the loudspeaker in his hand and said loudly, "What's wrong with the lighting here? Adjust it immediately and reshoot." Wan Xiaoquan, who picked up the microphone again, felt as if he had been given a new life. He had inexhaustible energy. His position in the crew was very special. He had the title of assistant director. In the future, his name would not appear at the beginning or the end of the movie that was broadcasted in the mainland, including the publicity. The reason was obvious. For at least 2 years, Wan Xiaoquan would have to tuck his tail between his legs. The nominal director of a Chinese ghost story was Lu Chan. But in fact, the film was directed by Wan Xiaoquan. It was nothing more than to avoid the policy. Because of this, Wan Xiaoquan paid more attention to this movie than Lu Chan. Before the shooting started, he studied the script all night and discussed the plot and characters with Lu Chan. He put all his attention into it. Wan Xiaoquan was good at shooting movies with costume themes. Many of his previous works had been successful at the box office and received good reviews. Moreover, he was known for his serious and meticulous work in the circle. Otherwise, Lu Chan would not have chosen him to direct his first movie. With Lu Chan's full support, enough funding, and away from the domestic right and wrong, Wan Xiaoquan is very scary when he is serious. After a few days of shooting, the members of the crew have been convinced by the director from China, and there have been no troublesome incidents of overtly complying but covertly opposing. Of course, the participation of Jiang Pictures was indispensable during the shooting process. Today's scene was the scene where Ning Kaichen met Nie Xiaoqian for the first time in Lanrua Temple. Lu Chun, who was dressed like a scholar, had a great change in temperament under the careful makeup of the makeup artist. Because of the mistakes in the lighting, the reshooting went smoothly. It was already past noon when the shooting was finished. Wan Xiaoquan finally let go of the starving crew members and told them to quickly fill their stomachs. The stage manager's assistant brought over the incubator, which was filled with stacked lunchboxes. Although there were not many roles in a Chinese ghost story, the crew members who should not be missing were all there. Big and small people added up to nearly 100 people so that the shooting progress could be ensured. With so many people busy on the set, they certainly could not go to restaurants outside to eat. Otherwise, it would waste a lot of time going back and forth, and it would also affect their working state. Therefore, whether it was in China or in Hong Kong, the crew members basically ate takeout lunchboxes. The staff contacted the restaurant in advance, ordered the quantity and price of the lunchboxes, and delivered them on time. "Let's eat." Everyone gathered around and went to take the lunchboxes, then found a place to sit down and eat. Although Lu Chun was an investor, the screenwriter, and the lead actor, he and director Wan Xiaoquan also ate the same lunchboxes. There was no special treatment, and it could be said that they shared the joys and sorrows with everyone. But today's situation was a little special. When Lu Chun opened the lid of the lunchbox, he could not help but frown, because the quality of the lunchbox in his hand was really a little terrible. The rice was yellow, as if it was steamed with old rice. A few pieces of vegetables and cucumbers were wilted, and a few were not fresh. The poached eggs were missing, and the remaining 2 pieces of ribs only had bones and no meat. This lunchbox would probably be considered trash even if it was fed to a dog. What's going on? Today's lunchbox is so bad. Is it even edible? What's going on? It's all rotten. Hee, you guys eat, I'll just watch. Damn it. It was not only Lu Chen's lunchbox, but the rest were the same. The crew members all complained. Seeing such a scene, Lu Chan could not sit still. He stood up with a sullen face, waved at the assistant who was still distributing the lunchboxes and said, "Please come here." The young assistant quickly put down the lunchbox, wiped his hands, ran over and asked, "Young Master Lu, what's the matter?" Lu Chun handed the lunchbox in his hand to him. "What do you think?" The assistant looked at the lunchbox, then looked at Lu Chan and said awkwardly, "Young Master Lu, I don't know." Lu Chan twitched the corner of his mouth and said lightly, "Then invite Old Merchant over." Old Merchant was a staff member of the crew of a Chinese ghost story, a veteran in the circle sent by Jiang Pictures. Logically speaking, under his management such a thing should not have happened. There must be something wrong. Chapter 485. Old Merchant soon arrived. He was in his 40s and had a short stature and small eyes. He gave people the impression that he was very smart and eloquent. He was very good at coordinating all aspects. Although they didn't know each other before, Lu Chun was very satisfied with Old Merchant's ability after a few days. A crew member was the person in charge of daily affairs during the filming process. His main task was to take care of the basic necessities of the crew members, such as food, clothing, housing, and transportation. It was tedious but essential. If a crew didn't have a good crew member, there would often be a lot of problems. When Old Merchant saw the completely substandard boxed lunches, his expression suddenly changed. He was shocked and angry. "Child Lu, I'm really sorry. I'll go and find out what happened right away." Lu Chun nodded. "Then go and ask them to change the batch. Or just order the boxed lunches from another restaurant." Although he didn't reprimand Old Merchant was obviously very stressed. He left in a hurry. Naturally, no one ate the boxed lunches. Everyone put the lunches back into the incubator. The atmosphere on the set was a bit strange. Many people sat together and whispered. One Xiaoguan said helplessly, "So, they don't want to do business anymore?" Chun Wenchang said in a low voice, "I'm afraid it's not that simple." Lu Chun was shocked and asked, "Uncle Chong?" Chun Wenchang hesitated and said, "The boxed lunches in the Lion Rock studio are occupied by 2 clubs. No one else can intervene. I don't know which restaurant our crew booked, but there's probably something wrong with them. Otherwise, no restaurant would do something like this." Clubs? Lu Chun was stunned. He didn't expect that a small matter like eating boxed lunches would involve Hong Kong's clubs. The clubs Chun Wenchang mentioned were definitely not regular and good mutual benefit organizations, but gangs. In layman's terms, they were Hong Kong's underworld gangs. The gangs in Hong Kong were once very popular in the 1970s and 1980s. At that time, the activities of Shanghai, Sinan, Hongtang and other triad organizations were rampant. There were hundreds of thousands of gang members, and their forces were spread all over Hong Kong, Macau, Treasure Island and several countries in Southeast Asia. They even established branches in the Chinese areas of Europe and the United States. These big gangs and societies operated drug trafficking, smuggling, prostitution, piracy, gambling, and so on. The small societies under them collected protection fees and dominated the market, causing the public order of Xiangjiang to be very bad. At that time in Xiangjiang, even the rich and powerful felt insecure and had to bring bodyguards with them when they went out. Otherwise, they might be kidnapped and blackmailed by a few daring gangsters. On July 15, 1987, the long-accumulated conflict between the 2 gangs, Xianan and Hengtang, broke out. Thousands of gang members from both sides fought on the streets of the prosperous areas of the new territories, resulting in the tragic result of 78 deaths and 154 serious injuries. There were countless minor injuries, and several innocent passers-by were killed by stray bullets. The bloody case of the new territories on July 15 shocked the whole of Hong Kong, causing the people to protest on the streets. It also prompted the Xiangjiang government to finally make up their minds to solve this cancer, and specially applied for help from the troops stationed in Hong Kong. In March 1988, in the crackdown carried out by the Xiangjiang government, many triad organizations that had been rampant in Hong Kong for decades were uprooted. A large number of backbone members were either killed on the spot or arrested and imprisoned, which made countless people in Xiangjiang applaud. At this point, the public order of Xiangjiang had been fundamentally improved. However, the triad organizations that had great influence in Xiangjiang society did not completely disappear. After the old gangs such as Shanghai, Sinan and Hongtang collapsed, new gangs emerged again. However, these new gangs no longer brazenly engaged in illegal activities. They registered companies to engage in legal operations and secretly did some business. The members of the gangs no longer easily wielded knives and guns, and the means of making money were more hidden. They even hired lawyers as legal consultants. This kind of new gang was even more difficult to deal with. Dealing with them was undoubtedly a very troublesome thing. And the gangs in Xiangjiang had deep entanglements with the entertainment industry. Many film and television entertainment companies had the background and power of gangs in the past. Although they were basically washed clean, they were still secretly connected. In just a few minutes, Old Merchant came back with 3 people. Old Merchant's face was very ugly. He introduced to Lu Chun. Young Master Liu. This is Manager Jiang of Honghua Restaurant Management Limited. Our crew's lunchbox is ordered through Honghua Restaurant. Manager Jiang and the others have something to talk to us about. This Manager Jiang of Honghua Restaurant was a middle-aged man with the head of a mouse and the eyes of a mouse. His hair was thickly oiled and he was worried that even flies would not be able to stand on it. He was wearing a suit and a tie, and he also wore a pair of nondescript gold-rimmed glasses, giving people the impression that he was wretched. Young Master Liu, hello. Manager Jiang nodded and bowed to greet Lu Chan, opening his mouth to reveal a mouthful of gold teeth. Following behind him were two burly men. Their faces were expressionless, and their bare arms were covered with dark green tattoos. Their bulging muscles made them look like they were very powerful. Lu Chan immediately understood when he saw this posture. He nodded and lightly said, "Okay, let's talk somewhere else." It was definitely not okay here. The surrounding crew members were all watching, and many people's eyes were full of doubt. The place chosen for the conversation was a meditation room in the temple, which was also used as the crew's temporary office. After sitting down, Lu Chan went straight to the point and asked, "Manager Jiang, can you explain what happened to our crew's lunchbox today? Did we not pay the fees that we owed you?" Manager Jiang said with a smile, "Young Master Liu, your crew's food and beverage fees were paid on time. We are also very sorry that there was a problem with today's lunchbox. I can guarantee that this kind of thing will not happen again." But, he suddenly changed the topic and said, "The prices in Xiangjiang are very high now. Recently, the prices of vegetables and pork have risen greatly. If we follow the original price, our company will lose money, so..." "So what?" Manager Jiang did not say any more and looked at Lu Chan with a smile. Lu Chan calmly continued for him, "So you want to raise the price? I'm really sorry." Manager Jiang rubbed his hands, and the smile on his face became even wider. "There is nothing we can do about the price increase. Our company's employees also have to eat." Lu Chan interrupted his verbose words. "Just say it, how much do you want to raise it?" Manager Jiang gave Lu Chan a thumbs up. Young Master Liu is really straightforward, worthy of being a big star from the mainland. In fact, it's not much. In the future, pay 55 yuan for a lunchbox, we guarantee the quality. 55 yuan. If Lu Chan remembered correctly, the original price of the lunchbox was 30 yuan, and now the price was increased to 55 yuan, which was equivalent to nearly doubling. Chapter 486. The crew of a Chinese ghost story had nearly 100 members. If the temporary hired extras were added, there would be more than 100 people. Even if 100 people were counted, 2 meals a day would require a total of 200 boxed meals. Originally 30 yuan per box, the basic cost of meals per day would be 6,000 yuan. Now that it had soared to 55 yuan, that was 11,000 yuan, they had to pay an additional 4,500 yuan. The scenes involved in this movie were basically all in the Lion Rock film and television base. In the case of no outdoor shooting, the crew would need to stay for at least a month, which meant that they had to pay an extra 100,000 to 200,000 yuan. Honghua Restaurant was really black-hearted. According to the boxed meals from yesterday, it was at most 15 yuan in the mainland. If the quantity was large, they could still get a discount. Their profit itself was already very good. The prices in Xiangjiang were high, but not to this extent. Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting next to Lu Chan, couldn't stand it anymore. "You guys are..." Before he finished speaking, he was stopped by Lu Chan. Lu Chen's expression didn't change. He nodded and said, "If you can guarantee the quality of the food, then we can accept the price of 55 yuan, but we won't pay for this batch of boxed meals at noon." Manager Jiang obviously didn't expect Lu Chan to be so easy to talk to. He asked for an exorbitant price, but Lu Chan actually agreed so easily. Even with his cunning, he couldn't help but be stunned. "Really?" Lu Chan hooked his finger and knocked on the table, saying lightly, "I'm not kidding. That's good." Manager Jiang suddenly showed a proud smile. His eyes flashed a touch of greed, and he continued to say, "In addition, the boxed meals are boxed meals, and the delivery will cost more." Was Honghua crazy? Even Chan Wenqiang looked angry. "Manager Jiang, this is against the rules, isn't it?" Clubs also had their own rules, especially the whitewashing clubs. Even if they were to bully others, they still had to follow the rules. Otherwise, if they caused public anger, they would be the unlucky ones. Previously, manager Zhang asked for an exorbitant price. He nearly doubled the price of the boxed meals and Lu Chan agreed. Now, he actually wanted to pay for the delivery. It was simply a naked extortion. There was something wrong with the smell inside. Manager Zhang glanced at Chan Wenchang meaningfully and said, "Brother Chang, rules are set by people. Don't you know that in this circle? That's the rule in our company now." He looked at Lu Chan as if he was looking at a fat sheep. "Young Master Lu, you are a big star who makes a lot of money every day. If you come to Xiangjiang to shoot a movie, you will definitely make a lot of money. You don't need our hard-earned money, do you?" Hee. Lu Chan smiled, but there was no smile in his eyes. "I don't like trouble. If I can solve the problem with money, then I don't mind spending some money to avoid disaster. But this doesn't mean that I'm afraid of trouble. Since your company doesn't have the sincerity to cooperate, then you don't need to send boxed meals anymore. I believe that our crew won't be starving because of this." To be honest, the main reason why Lu Chan chose to start his film career in Xiangjiang was because of the new film support policy issued by the Xiangjiang government. With this policy, he could easily enter the domestic film market, and he could also establish a foothold in Xiangjiang and radiate to Treasure Island, Australia and Southeast Asian countries. The benefits were self-evident. However, shortcuts were not easy to take. Lu Chan really didn't consider the gangs and clubs in Xiangjiang at that time, because there was basically no such problem in domestic movies or TV series. As the saying goes, a strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. Lu Chan was not a strong dragon, so he was willing to spend more money in exchange for peace. As long as a Chinese ghost story was successfully filmed and released, how much he spent would naturally be earned back. However, the other party's greed and shamelessness were far beyond Lu Chen's expectations. They were insatiable, which made his patience completely disappear. Without Butcher Zhang, did they have to eat pigs with hair? Nonsense. Hearing Lu Chen's resolute refusal, and his attitude turned 180 degrees, Manager Zhang's smile suddenly froze on his face, and he looked quite ridiculous. Lu Chen didn't give him a chance to speak. He got up and said, "Uncle Chang, see the guest out." So ruthless, Manager Zhang was furious. A strong man who had been standing behind him immediately stepped forward, raised his hand and pointed at Lu Chan and shouted, "How can you talk to our Manager Zhang? Don't be so shameless." Gangs and clubs were gangs and clubs. The factor of violence had long been hidden in their blood. Moreover, it was impossible to do this kind of monopoly business without strong power. The people brought by Manager Zhang were actually thugs. If everyone was good, they would naturally be decorations. But now that it was time to turn hostile, they had to show their strength. The hairy arms were black and thick, and the fingers with long radishes were about to poke Lu Chen's face. The stern rebuke was 100% deterrent for ordinary people. However, Lu Chan wasn't an ordinary person, and he wasn't alone. There was no need for Lu Chan to respond. Wan Yong, who was originally sitting beside Lu Chan, suddenly made a move. He grabbed the opponent's finger with lightning speed and pulled it up. Ah! The burly man involuntarily let out a blood-curdling scream, startling everyone present. Under the severe pain, he instinctively raised his leg and wanted to kick Wan Yong, but Wan Yong's right foot kicked his knee first, causing him to suddenly lose his balance and heavily fall to the ground. This was the result of Wan Yong being lenient. If it was a life-and-death fight, the finger bones and patella would have been broken into several pieces. Wan Yong let go of his hand and stared at the other thug who was ready to make a move. No one doubted that if this guy made any unusual moves, he would inevitably suffer from Wan Yong's thunderous counterattack. Manager Zhang was also scared. After a while, he came back to his senses, gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, business can't be done, but benevolence and righteousness still exist. Let's wait and see." These two sentences were a bit incoherent, but no one thought it was funny. The people from Honghua restaurant left dejectedly. Wan Xiaoguan, Chen Wenxiang, and the others didn't feel happy at all. Everyone knew that the real trouble was yet to come. The other party wouldn't let it go so easily. Lu Chan looked at Old Merchant and said, "When we first negotiated the cooperation, Jiang Pictures had a guarantee. Now that something like this has happened, I want to know what your boss thinks." Compared to Lu Chan's studio, Jiang Pictures was the local bully. Using the local bully to deal with the local bully was naturally the best choice. Lu Chun wasn't afraid of trouble, and he wouldn't easily take everything on himself. Otherwise, what was the point of having a partner? Under his intense gaze, old merchant felt a lot of pressure. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Young Master Lu, Jiayang Pictures will give you an explanation. Lu Chun nodded and said, "That's for the best." However, in his heart, he didn't think that Jiayang Pictures would succeed. It was impossible for Honghua to not know about the existence of Jiayang Pictures. Manager Zhang was here to slap them in the face. Let's wait and see. Chapter 487. After driving away Honghua's people, the hundreds of people in the crew of a Chinese ghost story still had to eat. This problem was easy to solve. Lu Chun asked Chan Wenxiang to drive to the nearest restaurant to buy lunchboxes. Honghua Catering couldn't monopolize all the big and small restaurants around Lion Rock Mountain, could it? He gathered the crew members and gave them a brief explanation, asking them to overcome their difficulties for the time being. Of course, the crew members expressed their understanding. Even if many of them were muttering in their hearts, they all supported Lu Chun, the real boss, on the surface. It was not a big deal to eat late. They wouldn't die even if they skipped a meal. By the time Chen Wenxiang came back with the lunchboxes and everyone finished eating, it was already 2 p.m. The crew of a Chinese ghost story was not large. Most of the staff were sent by Jiayang Pictures. The news spread quickly inside, so everyone basically knew what had happened. This made the people in the crew a little anxious. As a result, the shooting in the afternoon went wrong frequently. Wan Shaoquan didn't know how many NGs he had made, which made him annoyed and his voice a lot rougher. Seeing this situation, Lu Chun decisively called it a day and asked everyone to go back to rest early. In order to calm people down, he also asked Chen Wenxiang to pay the crew a meal fee. The amount was not much, but it was considered a dinner fee, because the crew originally provided 2 meals for lunch and dinner. At the end of the day, Chen Wenxiang was careful and sent 2 more people to stay on the set to ensure safety. This was the trouble of offending gangs. If the other party played tricks on the set, it was possible that all the previous work of the crew would be wasted. After returning, Lu Chun gathered several important members of the studio together and discussed countermeasures at the same time of dinner. In this regard, the most experienced person was definitely Chen Wenxiang. He said, "I just called my friend to confirm it. The backer of Honghua Catering is Shengyi Hall." At the end of the 80s, the triad organizations in Xiangjiang were severely attacked by the government. The 3 major gangs, Shanghe, Sinan and Hongtang, collapsed. However, a centipede died but did not die, and many new gangs were re-established on the basis of the 3 gangs. Shengyi Hall was one of them. The Jiang family that established and controlled Shengyi Hall was quite famous in Xiangjiang. On the surface, the businesses they operated involved real estate, finance, import and export trade, catering and so on. The eldest of the Jiang family was called Jiang Tai. He was shrewd and valiant, and his business methods were rather ruthless. He married 5 wives and had more than 10 children. Among them, his 5 sons were known as the 5 Tigers in the Victory Hall. The general manager of Honghua Restaurant was Jiang Tai's 3rd son, Jiang Chenghua. In the industry, Jiang Chenghua's reputation was quite good, so Chen Wenxiang was very puzzled by Honghua Restaurant's tricks against the crew of a Chinese ghost story, because it was against the rules. "I've already asked a friend in the industry to investigate and see what's going on." Chen Wenxiang continued, "We have no grudge against Jiang Chenghua. If Jiayang Pictures is not in trouble, then someone is trying to deal with us through Jiang Chenghua." Chen Wenxiang first suspected Jiayang Pictures when something like this happened. He didn't know Jiang Chenghua at all, and he had never offended the Jiang family. Needless to say, Lu Chun had only been in Xiangjiang for a few days. Jiang Chenghua couldn't suddenly go crazy and cause trouble for them for no reason. As for Jiayang Pictures, it was hard to say. The history of Jiayang Pictures could be traced back to the 1980s. At that time, the gangs in Xiangjiang were very powerful, and they had a great influence on the film and television entertainment industry. If a film and television entertainment company did not have the background or relationship with a gang, it would be impossible for it to survive. At this point, who could guarantee that there weren't any old grudges left behind? In addition, there was Zhou Yi, the behind-the-scenes boss of Jiayang Pictures. He had been doing business in Xiangjiang for so many years, And he was so smart that he must have offended a lot of people. All of these could cause trouble for the crew. Wan Xiaoquan frowned and asked, "Then what should we do?" He wouldn't encounter such a thing when he was filming in China. What happened today made him feel very bad. He originally wanted to shoot the movie seriously, but he didn't expect that there would be new problems as soon as they started. Lu Chan said, "I've already asked Jiayong Pictures to give us an explanation. Our shooting plan should not be changed for the time being. Tomorrow's lunchbox will be bought by Brother Zhang outside. It won't be troublesome if there are people and cars." Although that was what he said, everyone knew that things would not be so simple. Honghua hadn't achieved his goal, and it was impossible for him to stop. However, in the current situation, he could only take one step at a time and deal with the situation as it came. Wan Xiaoquan and Chan Wenqiang looked at each other and nodded. Ring ring ring. At this time Lu Chen's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and looked at it. "It's Zhou. He pressed the call button, and the slightly feminine voice of the boss of Jiayong Pictures came through the receiver. "Master Lu." Lu Chan replied in a deep voice. "Hello Boss Zhou. What can I do for you?" Even a clay figurine had some anger. When they first cooperated, Jiayong Pictures promised that they would be able to finish filming a Chinese ghost story smoothly. Other than the filming and production, they would be able to take care of everything else. Everyone had seen the result. Thinking of the half a day wasted and the emotional turmoil in the crew, how could Lu Chan not be angry? Through the microphone, Lu Chan seemed to be able to see the bitter smile on Zhou Yi's face at this moment. "Young Master Lu, you're treating me like an outsider. I already know what happened today. The problem is very big. Can we talk face to face?" Lu Chan thought for a moment and asked, "When?" "Zhou Yi, let's do it now. Is it convenient for you?" Lu Chan, "Sure." Zhou Yi gave him an address. It was not far from where Lu Chan was eating, so he brought Wan Xiaoquan, Chan Wenqiang, and the others to the appointment. The place to meet was called Oaken Clubhouse. This private clubhouse was located in the bustling business district of Shanghuan. It was a place frequented by the upper class of Xiangjiang, and the membership fee was more than 1,000,000 yuan a year. Zhou Yi booked a private room in the clubhouse. He brought an assistant and Ye Mingzhu with him. When they met, Zhou Yi's first words were, "Master Lu, I'm really sorry this time." Lu Chan suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Because from Zhou Yi's tone, it seemed that he was planning to withdraw. Once Jiayong Pictures gave up on the collaboration, it meant that Lu Chan would have to rebuild the crew, and even choose a new female lead. All his previous efforts would be in vain. Chapter 488. People who knew and understood Zhou Yi thought that he was a real businessman. Businessmen valued profits over friendship. A real businessman often had great courage in the face of rich interests and dared to challenge the rules. Now that trouble had just appeared, Zhou Yi actually wanted to retreat, which really surprised Lu Chan. In this cooperation between the two sides, Lu Chan has given up a large part of the benefits. He is very confident about the box office of a Chinese ghost story. This work, which is regarded as a classic in the dream world, will inevitably shine its due light. The 30 million production cost was very likely to bring several times or even 10 times the profit. Of course, Zhou Yi definitely did not know the origin of a Chinese ghost story, but it was impossible for him to be ignorant of Lu Chen's influence and appeal in the mainland. Otherwise, he would not have actively promoted the cooperation. So what made him give up? Lu Chan was prepared for the worst in his heart. He said calmly, "Mr. Zhou, you're exaggerating. Let's sit down and talk slowly." They all knew each other, so there was no need to introduce each other and greet each other politely. Everyone sat down together. Zhou Yi personally picked up the teapot and poured a cup of hot tea for Lu Chan. He sighed and said, "Child Lu, you must be suspecting that Jiayong Pictures or I have a grudge against Shengyi Hall, which is behind Honghua. But I can tell you frankly that I have never offended anyone from the Jiang family. If it's just the boss of Honghua, Jiang Changhua, I'm not afraid. But his father, Jiang Tai, I don't even have the right to talk to him as an equal. It's not a problem with Jiayong Pictures?" Lu Chan was stunned. What was going on? Zhou Yi obviously understood what he was thinking and continued, "I've already asked someone to find out what's going on with Jiang Changhua. I believe there should be accurate information in the next 2 days. And according to my guess, The boss of Jiayong Pictures hesitated for a moment, but he did not say anything. Lu Chun smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Zhou, if you have something to say, just say it. It doesn't matter even if your guess is wrong." Zhou smiled and said, "I'm guessing that Honghua wants to take a stake in this movie. I heard that Zhang Changhua recently has plans to set up his own entertainment company and enter the film industry. But in the current situation, it's not easy for him to find a suitable partner, so you chose my movie as your stepping stone?" Lu Chun immediately laughed. "I'm just a newcomer from the mainland. In his eyes, I'm a fat sheep, right?" Zhou Yi's expression was a little awkward, obviously agreeing with Lu Chen's words. "This is just my guess. The real situation still depends on the other party." Lu Chun pondered for a moment. He tapped his fingers on the table and asked, If Honghua really wants to invest and I agree, what are your plans, Boss Zhou?" Zhou Yi replied without hesitation, "Then I'll withdraw. I can't afford to offend the Jiang clan." His answer was very straightforward, directly admitting that he was afraid. Lu Chun understood what he meant. "What if I don't agree?" Zhou Yi's answer was still straightforward. "Jiayong Pictures is willing to continue the cooperation, but we can't directly confront the Jiang clan. If Jiang Tai asks, then I can only withdraw." Lu Chun understood. Although Zhou Yi said that he didn't dare to offend the Jiang clan, the premise was that the boss of the Jiang clan, Jiang Tai, was also involved in this matter. Otherwise, Jiayong Pictures would not give up the cooperation. But it was not realistic to count on Jiayong Pictures to deal with Honghua. Zhou Yi's behavior was typical of a businessman to seek benefits and avoid harm. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a little shameless. But he was blunt and had the demeanor of a real villain. Everything was laid out on the table for discussion. Lu Chun wasn't angry. He thought for a moment and said, "Then let's leave it at that for now. Boss Zhou, please find out more useful information about Honghua. If it involves any costs, our studio is willing to bear them." "You're too kind, too kind." Zhou Yi waved his hand and said, "Once there's news, I'll inform you immediately." Lu Chun nodded. Things could only be like this for the time being. The shooting had to continue tomorrow. He couldn't just stop farming when he heard Lalagu's cry. He didn't want to run back to the mainland with his tail between his legs. If he didn't have a brave and fearless heart, even if he had the wealth of a world, how could he climb to the real peak? Before leaving, Nie Mingzhu, who had been silent, poured a cup of tea for Lu Chun. She said to Lu Chun, "I like this script very much, and I like the role of Nie Xiaoqian very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope we can continue to work together happily." Lu Chun didn't quite understand Nie Mingzhu's attitude, but he accepted her kindness. After leaving Oaken Club, Wan Xiaoquan expressed his dissatisfaction with Zhou Yi in the car. "This person is too cunning and unreliable. Do we really want to continue working with him?" Lu Chun explained, "If we give up working with Jiayong Pictures now, things will become more troublesome. First, we have to figure out Honghua's real intentions, and then we'll make plans." It was good that Zhou Yi had made things clear. When the time came, Lu Chun would be justified in kicking them out. Most importantly, in the conversation just now, Lu Chun felt that Zhou Yi had a trump card. He wasn't afraid of the Jiang family as he had said, and it seemed more like he was testing Lu Chun's attitude. As a result, the next day, something happened at the famed temple film set in Lion Rock Studio. Someone had thrown 2 dead cats into the set, and they were unlucky black cats. The necks of the cats were broken. "They must have been thrown in secretly in the early hours of the morning," Wan Yong said to Lu Chun, who had just arrived at the set. "I asked Xiao Chun to take care of it. I didn't tell anyone else." This was purely a disgusting method. The other party didn't steal or rob, but deliberately did something to disgust people. It was useless to call the police. The Xiangjiang police wouldn't take such a small matter seriously. Moreover, after calling the police, it would be easy for the paparazzi to take photos and put them on the media. It would only have a greater impact on the crew. Lu Chun listened to Chan Wenxiang's advice and asked him to secretly control the news and not spread it. Lu Chun was very glad that he had arranged for 2 more people to be stationed at the set last night. Otherwise, if there were loopholes in the management, it would be easy for the other party to take advantage of them, and they might cause even more damage. However, what he didn't expect was that before noon, The news of the dead cats being thrown on the set had spread among the crew. Everyone had a strange look on their faces, and many of the crew members were absent-minded. The shooting process was also not smooth. In the afternoon, someone proposed to quit the crew. Chapter 489. The composition of a regular film crew was quite complicated. In addition to the actors, there were also producers, production directors, producers, planners, art directors, cinematographers, and so on. In addition, there were stage managers, makeup artists, art designers, lighting artists, and prop masters together with the financial assistants. The number of people could easily exceed 100, and even a few hundred was common. The crew of A Chinese Ghost Story was relatively small. Because there were not many characters in the film, the number of actors was relatively small. However, the necessary people could not be missing. Apart from the dozen or so members of Luchan's studio, most of the crew members were sent by Jiayong Pictures. Some of them were temporarily hired by the latter, and did not belong to Jiayong Pictures. This was very normal. Otherwise, with the scale and strength of Jiayong Pictures, it would be impossible to support so many people. Even large film companies would pay attention to the number of employees. In the film and television industry, there were specialized agencies to solve this problem. Once a film company needed people for a new project, whether it was actors, scriptwriters, cameramen, recording artists, or even directors, they could be hired through an agency. This saved money to a great extent. There were 5 people who suddenly proposed to quit the crew. They were all assistants and handymen in the logistics department. They were not important people, and the crew could still operate without them. However, this was undoubtedly a dangerous signal. The dead cat incident on the set had caused the hearts of the crew of A Chinese Ghost Story to become very unstable. The filming plan was facing a serious situation. But it was not over yet. In the afternoon, the car that the crew had parked in the parking lot of the film and television city had its tires punctured, and all 4 tires were punctured. Zhang Xiaofeng had brought people to buy lunch boxes in this car yesterday and at noon. The intention of the saboteur was very obvious. Call the police, Lu Chan said to Chen Wenxiang. Complain to the Film and Television City's Management Committee again. Lu Chan could still tolerate the dead cat being thrown at the set in the morning, but now he could not take it anymore. He knew very well that neither calling the police nor complaining would solve the problem. Even if the troublemakers were caught, the punishment would not be severe. They would be released after a few days in jail, and they could continue to cause damage. Moreover, it was still unknown whether they could find the culprit. This was not a criminal case. As long as Honghua's side continued to harass them, it would be enough to make the entire production team restless. They would not be able to focus on filming. The most disgusting thing about these gangs was that they could still achieve their goals without resorting to violent means of killing. In the face of such trouble, if the crew did not have strong enough connections, they would have no choice but to submit, pay protection fees, or share the profits to avoid the disaster. Lu Chan had also thought of spending money to avoid disaster, but the other party wanted a foot after taking an inch. Things definitely wouldn't end well. Calling the police and filing a complaint was to show that he would never bow down. Chen Wenxiang nodded. I'll deal with it right away, but... He hesitated for a moment before saying, but without direct evidence, we'd better not accuse Honghua. Even if you used your toes to think, everyone could figure out that this was done by Honghua. However, knowing was one thing, pointing it out to the police and the management of the film studio was another. Without evidence, the other party would definitely sue them for defamation. Nowadays, these gangs had learned from the lessons of their predecessors. When they started companies, factories, and industries, they would hire lawyers to act as amulets. They were very good at using legal means to achieve their goals. Honghua might even be waiting for the crew to file a complaint against them. Chen Wenxiang's explanation was an eye-opener for Lu Chan. He didn't know that the underworld nowadays could be played like this. However, at this point he couldn't back down. Chen Wenxiang had just taken out his phone to call the police when his phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and said a few words. His expression suddenly changed. The other party hung up very quickly. What's wrong? Lu Chan keenly sensed that something was wrong. He immediately asked, did something happen again? Chen Wenxiang nodded with a bitter smile and replied, Lu Jiahui is not acting anymore. He quit the crew. Lu Jiahui was the actor who played the role of Grandma Tree Spirit. He was a local of Xiangjiang and had played countless roles in the past few decades. He was quite famous for playing villains. Lu Chan had seen him many times when he watched Xiangjiang movies. The cast of a Chinese ghost story could be said to be weak. Lu Jiahui was also considered a small star. Since Lu Jiahui didn't have any scenes in the past 2 days, he wasn't on the set. However, it was obvious that he knew what had happened here. That was why he took the initiative to quit. This kind of veteran actor was usually very trustworthy. If his reputation was ruined in this industry, then no crew would be willing to hire him. It was equivalent to destroying his own rice bowl. If it wasn't for the great pressure, Lu Jiahui definitely wouldn't break the contract like this. Mother ***. The more Chan Wenxiang thought about it, the angrier he got. He couldn't help but curse. This original actor was really a grandma. Lu Chan was almost amused by Chan Wenxiang's curse. Wasn't Lu Jiahui hired by Jiayang? This role was fought over by Jiayang Pictures during the negotiation. Now that Lu Jiahui broke the contract, it was also a slap in the face to Jiayang Pictures. How could Jiayang remain indifferent? Chan Wenxiang smiled bitterly. It was Jiayang's people who informed me. Then there was no turning back. Lu Chan also had the urge to curse. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice, "Uncle Chong, don't call the police. Please ask Uncle Ma to come over." Chen Wenxiang was stunned. He immediately understood what Lu Chan meant. Lu Jiahui ran away. If the other more important supporting actor, Ma Rongjin, also ran away, then the crew would be paralyzed. It would be a complete mess. Compared to Lu Jiahui, who was doing well in the industry, Ma Rongjin, who had always been a flop, was probably even weaker. Therefore, at this time, Lu Chan couldn't panic. He had to find a way to stabilize the crew's morale. The first step was to ensure that an important role like Ma Rongjin wouldn't go wrong. Ma Rongjin soon arrived. Ma Rongjin was also a supporting actor, and he also didn't have any scenes to shoot. Ma Rongjin was different from Lu Jiahui, who disappeared after the opening ceremony. He had been with the crew the whole time and even helped with some chores. Maybe because he had lost it before, Ma Rongjin knew how to cherish this opportunity. He didn't brag, but used his actions to show his efforts. "Young Master Lu, you wanted to see me?" Lu Chan asked directly. "Uncle Ma, did anyone ask you to leave the crew?" Chapter 490. Although Ma Rongjin was in dire straits now, he had been in the entertainment circle for many years and was experienced. Therefore, he understood what was going on when he heard Lu Chen's words. "No," he replied firmly. "Even if there is, I will never leave the cast unless young Master Lu asks me to." Lu Chan and Chan Wenxiang looked at each other and saw a trace of relief in each other's eyes. If Ma Rongjin also ran away, it would be really troublesome. Lu Chan was relieved and said with a smile, "That's good. Don't worry, I definitely won't let you go. Let's work hard together and make this movie a good one." The character of this veteran actor was undoubtedly trustworthy. Ma Rongjin asked with concern, "Master Lu, does Lu Jiahui not want to make the movie?" Lu Chan and Chan Wenxiang were both stunned. The latter asked in surprise, "Brother Rongjin, how did you know?" "This man," Ma Rongjin's eyes flashed a touch of disdain and said, "He is not only cunning but also extremely afraid of death. If someone casually threatens him, he will definitely shrink back. There is nothing strange about it." It could be seen that Ma Rongjin despised Lu Jiahui very much. They probably had some grievances in the past. Lu Chan didn't care about their gossip. He cared about Ma Rongjin himself. "Uncle Ma, aren't you afraid that Xingyi Hall is behind Honghua?" Ma Rongjin smiled and said, "What am I afraid of? My life is worthless now. If Xingyi Hall makes trouble for me, then I will risk my life to fight with them. The current Hong Kong is not the Hong Kong of decades ago. The Jiang family can't cover the sky in Hong Kong." Ma Rongjin said frankly, "If Xingyi Hall makes trouble for me in the past, maybe I will shrink back like Lu Jiahui. But now I'm really not afraid of anything. My wife and children have long run away, and I am the only one left at home. If they are not afraid of causing public anger, then they can do whatever they want. If Jiang Changhua dares to ruin my life, I will dare to lie in front of his father's door with my mother. Let's see who will lose face." Lu Chan was a little speechless, but he was finally relieved about Ma Rongjin. "Still, you have to pay attention to your safety. Be careful of their dirty tricks." Ma Rongzhen smiled. Young Master Lu, I don't think they will chase me away. I don't have a good reputation in the industry. Box office poison. Lu Chan suddenly remembered Ma Rongzhen's nickname and laughed involuntarily. Ma Rongzhen sighed and said, actually, when encountering such a situation, the best solution is to find a big shot. Unfortunately, I don't have any face now. I'm sorry that I can't help you. You can't say that. Lu Chan shook his head and said, Uncle Ma, you're helping me by insisting on staying in the crew. Although the crew was facing constant troubles, the filming work could not be interrupted because of this. Otherwise the loss would be great. Lu Chan did not hold back any of those who chose to quit the cast. Anyone who wanted to leave could leave. Nothing that was forced would not be sweet. As for Lu Jiahui, he was invited by Jiayong Pictures. Naturally, Jiayong Pictures would give an explanation. That night, Zhou, the boss of Jiayong Pictures, called Lu Chan again. Through a middleman, Honghua gave a settlement condition. Buying shares is a must. Zhou said over the phone. His voice sounded very tired and weak. As for how much shares, we need to sit down and discuss it. The middleman's bottom line is no less than 35%. Honghua will set up a new film company to participate in the shooting and distribution of the new film, as the main shareholder. They wanted at least 35% of the film shares. The last bit of hope in Lu Chen's heart was gone. These gangs and societies were so greedy that giving them even 1% wasn't a good idea. But he still listened to Zhou patiently. In addition, Honghua suggested that they choose someone to be the director and producer. The male and female leads can remain the same. Well, Lu Chan could not listen to it anymore. The most important members of a film crew would always be the director and producer. Sometimes the two might be one, but most of the time they jointly controlled the fate of the film. Honghua not only wanted to buy shares, but also wanted to take away the director and producer. It was equivalent to controlling the life and death of a Chinese ghost story in their own hands. How could Lu Chan agree? Boss Zhou, you don't have to say anymore. I will not agree to any of their conditions. If they insist on making trouble, then I can only accompany them to the end. Lu Chen's answer was resolute, with unshakable determination and confidence. That was never to bow down. Zhou was not surprised. If it were him, he would rather break up the business than agree to such bad conditions. That was equivalent to directly kneeling on the ground. After thinking for a moment, he still said his guess. Young Master Lu, I think their ultimate goal is not to ask for shares, but to drive you away from Xiangjiang. Zhou put himself in Honghua's shoes. If he was interested in the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, and wanted to take it by force, the time to choose to make trouble was not now. The best time was when the filming was halfway through. At that time, Lu Chan had invested a large amount of money. If he withdrew, the loss would be great, and he might give in. Now that he had just started, he wanted to buy shares in the director and producer. Did he really think others were idiots? Therefore, Zhou suspected that Honghua's purpose was to drive Lu Chan away. Lu Chan felt that Zhou's guess was very reasonable, but he was very puzzled. What good will it do for Honghua if I leave? Lu Chan came to Xiangjiang to shoot a movie, so there should be no conflict with Honghua, who was currently in the food and beverage business. Moreover, he had previously ordered box lunches from the latter to do business. Zhou said, I don't know, but I know that Zhang Chenghua is a very smart person. He doesn't do business that loses money, and he won't waste time and energy on things that harm others without benefiting himself. So as to what the truth is, I can only find a way to find out. Be careful here. After ending the call with Zhou, Lu Chan thought for a moment and dialed Wan Yang's cell phone. After so many things had happened, although the crew had already called the police and complained to the management of the film city, the safety of the crew still had to be maintained by themselves. Therefore, he asked Wan Yong to personally stay on the set to look after the equipment at night. After giving a few serious instructions to Wan Yong, Lu Chan went to bed to rest. The next morning, he was woken up from his sleep by the urgent ringing of the phone. Opening his eyes, Lu Chan immediately turned over and grabbed the landline on the bedside table. He put the phone to his ear. Hello? Wan Yong's excited voice came from the phone. Young Master Lu, we caught the two guys who caused trouble. What? Lu Chan was suddenly completely awake. Chapter 491. In the early morning of yesterday, Someone threw the dead cat into the Fane Temple set, which made Wan Yong angry. Lu Chen did not blame the people in charge of guarding the set because the set was so big, and without any monitoring equipment, the people who stayed behind could only guard the important equipment and could not prevent this kind of malicious behavior. But Wan Yong felt ashamed, because the people guarding the set were several members of the Lu family squad, who were also his subordinates. He felt that he was responsible for such a thing happened. Wan Yong was not an ordinary person. He had been in the army for many years, and had already honed an extraordinary skill, and also mastered special military skills, but after retiring from the army, there had been no place for him to use them. Now that such a situation had happened, Wan Yong certainly could not tolerate a few people from the gangs, who unscrupulously caused trouble under his eyes, so last night he personally led a team to guard the set. And after discussing with Lu Chen, he also bought a set of simple local monitoring equipment and set it up. Once this former elite in the army became serious, a few petty thieves were completely not enough. They were also caught in the early morning of this day, and they were caught red-handed. Just two little yellow-haired boys. Wan Yong said proudly, I used a little means to deal with them and they all confessed. They are the henchmen of Honghua, usually responsible for delivering lunchboxes and so on. They sent us 2 dead dogs and a bucket of dog blood, trying to pollute our set. Not only did they throw the dead cat away, but they also sprinkled dog blood. Lu Chen finally saw the shamelessness and filth of this kind of gang. He asked, did they get hurt? Xiangjiang was a place of law, and it was the Anglo-American legal system, so there were a lot of lawyers and trivial matters often had to be solved in court. Wan Yong did not call the police immediately after catching the troublemakers, but first vented his anger. If they really got hurt, then things would be very troublesome. At that time, Honghua would definitely use this as a pretext, and the crew would become unreasonable. Wan Yong smiled and said, don't worry about my methods. Even if I send these 2 guys to the hospital for an MRI scan, they definitely won't be able to detect any injuries. Originally, I had prepared more than 10 methods, but in the end, before I even finished 2 of them, they already confessed everything with snot and tears on their faces. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry because it sounded like Wan Yong wasn't satisfied. He said, you've done a good job. I'll come over now and call the police when I arrive. If he was present when the police arrived, he should be able to put some pressure on them. After thinking about it, Lu Chen gave Zhou Yi a call. In the end, it was Zhou Yi's assistant who picked up the phone, saying that the boss was still resting. Lu Chen did not mind and informed the other party about the situation at the set. Then, he hurriedly washed up and contacted Chen Wenxiang to rush to Lion Rock together. Chen Wenxiang was very happy when he found out that the culprit had been caught red-handed. He said that he had finally gotten his revenge. He believed that this time, Honghua's side would have to suffer a little in the lawsuit and reduce the pressure on the production team. However, to the 2 of them's surprise, Wan Yong made a call halfway through the car. Just a few minutes ago, a group of people wearing Honghua's restaurant uniforms appeared at Fane Temple. They blocked the entrance of the set and clamored for the crew to release the culprit. How arrogant! Lu Chen replied without hesitation. Call the police immediately and guard the set. Don't let them break in. Uncle Chong and I will be there in 10 minutes. Wan Yong said. Don't worry, the people here are all good. Unless they use their weapons, I can guarantee that they won't be able to break in even if there are twice as many of them. Then it's all up to you. After ending the call with Wan Yong, Lu Chen said to Chen Wenxiang, Uncle Chong, inform the management of the studio. To be honest, Lu Chen was very dissatisfied with the management of Lion Rock Studio. It was impossible for them to be completely unaware of such a problem that the crew of a Chinese ghost story had encountered, but they pretended to be deaf and dumb. Lu Chen would never believe that there was no internal collusion between Honghua and the management of the studio. It was nothing more than taking advantage of the fact that he was an outsider. But even though he was angry, Lu Chen still had to do what he had to do. No matter what the management's reaction was, he had to clearly express his attitude. The Mercedes-Benz MPV carrying the 2 of them sped up. Zhang Xiaofeng displayed his driving skills without saying a word. The distance that would normally have taken 10 minutes to complete took only 5 minutes to reach the destination. After parking the car in the parking lot, the 3 of them hurried to the set. From afar, They saw a group of people surrounding the gate of Fane Temple, confronting Wan Yong and several crew members. The police had not arrived yet, and the people from the studio were nowhere to be seen. However, there were a few paparazzi sneaking around with cameras in their hands. They were probably hired by Hong Hua. There were about 20 or 30 people surrounding the set. They were all very young and wore blue uniforms with the Hong Hua restaurant logo printed on them. They looked very arrogant. Release them immediately, or don't blame us for being rude. Brothers, the mainlanders have detained our brothers. Can we agree? Release them. Apologize. Pay up. What bullsh*t crew is this? You snatched our jobs and captured our people. I'll fight you today. Go back to the mainland. Most of these people from Hong Hua were bare-handed, but there were also a few who were holding baseball bats. As early as the 70s and 80s, when the gangs in Xiangjiang were at their strongest, the fights between the major triad organizations were extremely fierce, and people were often killed. At that time, machetes and daggers were a necessity for everyone. Pistols and even rifles had appeared in gang fights. At that time, ordinary people in Xiangjiang felt insecure. They were afraid that they would be stabbed or eaten by a stray bullet while walking on the street. Some gang members were simply unreasonable and dared to kill people over trivial matters. This kind of social reality was also reflected in Xiangjiang's movies and TV series. Gangster movies were popular at that time, and the protagonists in the movies were often members of gangs. The deliberate whitewashing and flattering of the protagonists affected countless young people in Xiangjiang. After several severe attacks, these violent gangs had already disappeared. Later on, the rising gangs would put on a layer of legal armor and would no longer fight and kill at every turn. Moreover, the Xiangjiang government had extremely strict control over firearms and controlled knives. Once violated, they would be severely punished. No one dared to openly go on the streets. But a dog can't stop eating *t. As the most direct and effective method, the factor of violence had long been deeply ingrained in the bones of the gang members. Many times they would still flaunt their strength. Of course, controlled knives and firearms were definitely not allowed to be used. If they were used, it would be a taboo. Therefore, the hard and easy-to-use baseball bats became the best weapon for these people. It was not against the law to hold a baseball bat, but when they hit people, they were still fierce and full of deterrence. When Lu Chan appeared on the set with Chen Wanqiang and Zhang Xiaofeng, someone immediately noticed him. Chapter 492. That's him. He's the celebrity boss from the mainland. Stop him, don't let him run away. Let our brothers come out. Hurry up. Several of Hong Hua's men recognized Lu Chan at the first moment. As if they had found a treasure, they quickly surrounded Lu Chan while shouting and shouting. Each of them had an ominous glint in their eyes. One of them was a young man with a flat-top haircut. There was a dark blue tattoo on his neck, and he held a wooden baseball bat in his hand. He rushed to Lu Chan at the fastest speed. As he rushed, he cursed, "Bastard, how dare you detain my brother? Go to hell." At the same time, he raised the baseball bat in his hand high. The bat was shiny and reflective in the morning sun, which was very deterrent. Seeing that the situation was not good, Zhang Xiaofeng immediately rushed to protect Lu Chan. Lu Chan reached out to stop him and said in a deep voice, "You protect Uncle Chang. I'll deal with him." While speaking, Lu Chan did not stop and rushed to the other side without showing any weakness. The young man with a flat-top haircut was very surprised. In his impression, a delicate and noble star artist like Lu Chan is the most timid in the face of violence and intimidation. He believes that as long as he puts on a good posture, he can definitely scare Lu Chan to the point of wetting his pants. Then his goal would be achieved. However, what the young man with a flat-top haircut never expected was that in the face of him and the baseball bat in his hand, not only did Lu Chan not show the slightest fear, but he also put on a posture to fight. This is not right. The young man with the flat-top haircut didn't really want to hit Lu Chan, because if he really hurt someone, especially a celebrity from the mainland, the consequences would be absolutely serious. Even his boss might not be able to protect him. The Hong Kong government's crackdown on violence was very strict, not to mention that the victim was a celebrity. However, if the young man with a flat-top haircut chose to retreat at this time, he would lose his face. With so many brothers watching, he would become a joke in the martial arts world if it was spread out. As a member of a club, His head could be chopped off and his blood could flow, but he could not afford to lose face. At this moment, several thoughts flashed through the young man's mind. In the end, the violent emotions hidden deep in his heart prevailed. He growled and swung the baseball bat at Lu Chen's left shoulder. Otherwise, it would be no problem to smash someone's head to smack them to death. Moreover, he still reserved some strength. As long as he could successfully scare Lu Chen, it would be enough to let Lu Chen suffer a little. This was also specially instructed by the people above. The young man with the crew cut could be considered a smart person, but unfortunately, he was facing Lu Chen. When he saw the other party brandishing his weapon, Lu Chen suddenly sped up. His body rushed forward like an arrow shot from a bow, like a ferocious beast pouncing on its prey. In the blink of an eye, he collided with the young man with the crew cut. At the moment of collision, Lu Chen turned his body sideways and rammed the back of his shoulder into his opponent's chest. Bang! Accompanied by a dull, low sound, the young man with the crew cut flew out involuntarily, as if he had been hit head-on by a raging bull. He collided with a few of his companions behind him, and instantly became a gourd rolling on the ground. Ah! Screams, cries of pain, and the sound of bodies colliding intertwined, causing the other people of Honghua to be stunned. What was going on? The result of the collision was too unexpected, and they felt that their common sense had been subverted. Many of these street gangsters chased after celebrities, but they never thought that the awe-inspiring actors and actresses in the movies and television had real skills. For people like them, if they had a machete in hand, it would not be a problem for them to chop down 18 or 19 kings and queens. The young man with the crew cut was a small leader of Honghua, and he was a very combative member of the club. Although he did not hold a machete in his hand, his baseball bat was not to be trifled with. However, in just one round, the young man with the crew cut was KO'd by Lu Chen, and even the others were unlucky. This did not make sense. Don't even think about escaping. While everyone was still in a daze, Wan Yong, who was stationed at the entrance of the film set, rushed out with a group of crew members. They didn't have many people, and there were only a mere 8 of them including Wan Yong. But when faced with an opponent that was 3 to 4 times their number, they were like a group of ferocious tigers that had descended the mountain and brazenly slaughtered their way into a pack of wolves. Last night, most of the Lu family squad that Lu Chen had arranged to stay at the film set finally revealed their sharp fangs. All the members of the Lu family squad were retired military personnel, and they were good at grappling and close combat. Furthermore, they had undergone strict training, and were on a completely different level from Honghua's gangsters. Their previous forbearance was only to wait for Lu Chen's arrival. Now that Lu Chen had personally made a move, of course Wan Yong would not just stand by and watch. He immediately commanded the Lu family squad to move out. The battle from the very beginning showed a one-sided trend. Although Honghua's gangsters had the advantage in numbers in terms of organization, action and combat effectiveness, they could not be compared to the former at all. Therefore, in an instant they threw away their helmets and abandoned their armor. The Lu family squad led by Wan Yong captured a gangster, and used the plastic buckles that they carried with them to tie up his hands. There were also gangsters who tried to resist, but the result of resistance was even worse. They were punched heavily in the stomach or thrown to the ground, suffering greatly. This was the result of the Lu family squad deliberately controlling their strength. Otherwise, if they were to fight to the death, half of them would be completely lying on the ground within half a minute, never to get up again. The few who dared to resist were all defeated. Seeing their companions being taken care of one by one, the others were scared out of their wits. They threw down the sticks in their hands and ran away like rats. It was really embarrassing to the extreme. At this moment, the paparazzi who were squatting not far away were extremely excited. They raised their respective long and short cameras and took pictures of the scene, for fear of missing a wonderful scene. Of course, Lu Chen saw it, but he had no intention of interfering. Today's counterattack was completely justified, and he wasn't afraid even if it was brought to court. What he needed was a hearty victory like this to establish his prestige and reputation. Otherwise, he would only be tired of dealing with Honghua's endless sinister tactics, and be at a complete disadvantage. When it was time to make a move, Lu Chen would rather go back to the mainland if he had to be cautious and indecisive in every matter. Woo woo woo, the heart-palpitating sound of police sirens came from afar. telling everyone that the police had arrived. Interestingly, the gangsters who were put on the ground breathed a sigh of relief. Since the police were here, they were not in any danger. In fact, it was not only the police who showed up, but also the people from the Film City's management organization. The ruins of Fane Temple, located in a remote corner of Lion Rock Hill, had never been as lively as it was now. While Chen Wenxiang was negotiating with the police and the management of Film City, Lu Chan made a second call to Zhou Yi. Chapter 493. This time it was Zhou Yi who answered the phone. He said in a deep voice, "Young Master Lu, I'm on my way. I'll be there in a few minutes at most." Zhou Yi was a very shrewd businessman, and in many cases, shrewdness could also be interpreted as cunning. When it came to dealing with Honghua, Zhou Yi was very cunning and was unwilling to share the pressure for Lu Chan. But now his attitude was impeccable. As a well-known businessman in Xiangjiang, Zhou Yi's strength and status could not be compared with the top tycoons. He was not an ordinary rich man, and he had a considerable status. His coming to the set in person was undoubtedly another sign of support for Lu Chan. Lu Chan was too lazy to guess what Zhou Yi was thinking. He first briefly described what had just happened on the phone, and finally said to Zhou Yi straightforwardly, "Boss Zhou, I'm going to hold a media conference immediately to clarify the truth of the matter to the media and the public, and denounce Honghua's bad behavior at the same time. I want to know how many influential media can you help me invite now?" Lu Chan emphasized the word influential. He believed that Zhou Yi understood what he meant. Of course, Zhou Yi understood that Lu Chan was going to fight with Honghua, and if Zhou Yi came forward to invite important media reporters, it meant that he was firmly tied to Lu Chen's chariot. It was impossible for him to waver like before, and he had to clearly support Lu Chan. Young people nowadays were really amazing. Zhou Yi was silent and also thinking. However, Lu Chan did not let him delay and said very bluntly, "Boss Zhou, if you can't do it, then you don't have to come." This was Lu Chen's last ultimatum. If he wanted to continue to cooperate, then he had to show a cooperative attitude. Otherwise, everyone would break up. Zhou Yi sighed and said, "Give me half an hour." Of course, he did not want to directly go against the Jiang family. A moment of pleasure would not help his business at all, and it would cause unnecessary trouble instead. Zhou Yi did not like trouble. What he liked was to earn money easily and quickly. However, in the current Xiangjiang, it was already very difficult to make money. The competition in the industry was extremely fierce. Even 1% of the profit might require 100% of the effort, and even a little bit of effort would cause one to lose everything. That was why Zhou Yi had acquired Jiang Pictures to invest in multiple areas. He did not want to put all his eggs in one basket. Zhou Yi was also very optimistic about Lu Chen's movie project. Based on his serious understanding of Lu Chan, he realized that this young man, who had debuted in the country less than 2 years ago, had already created many miracles. Those who followed Lu Chan, trusted Lu Chan, and supported Lu Chan had all received generous rewards. Because of this understanding, when faced with a choice, Zhou Yi placed all his chips on Lu Chan. Of course, he also had a trump card. A smile finally appeared on Lu Chen's face, and his tone became gentle. "An hour is fine. The press conference is scheduled to be held at 9:30. I have prepared the materials here." After making up his mind, Zhou Yi immediately showed the decisiveness that a real businessman should have. Okay. The matter of holding the press conference was officially settled. As soon as Lu Chan ended the call with Zhou Yi, Chen Wenxiang came to him with a policeman. "This is our boss, Mr. Lu Chan." Chen Wenxiang introduced. "This is Sergeant Fong from the Kowloon police station." "Hello, Sergeant Fong." Lu Chan immediately took the initiative to extend his hand to him. "Thank you for your hard work." Sergeant Fong was a tall and thin middle-aged man. He shook hands with Lu Chan and said, "Hello, Mr. Lu Chan. The Lion Rock Film and Television City is within the jurisdiction of our police station. It is our duty to protect the safety of the filming crew. It's a pity that such a thing happened. We will increase the intensity of our patrols in the future." Lu Chan said with a smile. "Thank you." Sergeant Fong nodded. His eyes swept over Wan Yong and the other members of the Lu family squad, and he said casually, "The people in your crew are very good at martial arts." It was more than good. Of course, Sergeant Fong was very clear about the background of the mastermind of the disturbance, Hong Hua. He had even heard rumors that Hong Hua was dealing with a crew from the mainland, so he had been mentally prepared for what would happen today. But what he didn't expect was that Hong Hua, who came to make trouble, actually suffered such a big loss. More than 20 people were subdued on the spot, and they were so fast that he could only clean up the mess when he arrived with his team. This made Sergeant Fong vigilant. In the 70s and 80s, there was a special force in Hong Kong called the Big Circle Gang. Its members were all from the mainland, and their methods were particularly cruel. Later, they were the most severely suppressed. When Sergeant Fong was a child, he had a deep impression of the Big Circle Gang. The powerful members of the Liu family squad made him have some subtle associations. Liu Chan said with a smile, "They are martial arts masters in charge of staying on the set. They are all retired soldiers. Fortunately, they are." Liu Chen's words were meaningful. Hearing the word soldier, Sergeant Fong's pupils suddenly shrank, and his expression instantly froze. The soldiers of the Republic had a special deterrent power to the people of Hong Kong. After Hong Kong returned to the mainland, there had always been a garrison in Hong Kong. Later, when the Hong Kong government took action to crack down on the evil forces, the garrison participated in it, and their outstanding performance made the whole world look at them. But Sergeant Fong reacted very quickly, and immediately said with a smile, "No wonder, no wonder. But we have to bring these troublemakers back to the police station for interrogation. Please believe that the police will definitely deal with them impartially." Imperceptibly, he was a little more polite to Liu Chan. "Thank you, Sergeant Fong." Liu Chan shook hands with him again. "Then I'll leave it to the police to deal with." Because the incident was a little big, the Kowloon Tong police station sent a number of police cars, including a riot police car. There were more than 20 police officers, so when they brought the troublemakers back, it was quite a big scene. Probably because the news had spread, there were more and more reporters around the set. Many paparazzi came out of nowhere and kept taking pictures of the police and the arrested Hong Chinese. Some reporters even went straight to Liu Chan. "Mr. Liu Chan, I'm a reporter from the Kowloon Express. Can you tell me what exactly happened?" Liu Chan stopped Zhang Xiaofeng, who was about to stop the reporters, and said, "Our crew will hold a media conference here at 9:30. All reporters are welcome to come and interview." After saying that, he ignored the reporters who were trying to continue asking questions and turned around to return to the set. "Liu Chan, Mr. Liu Chan." The other reporters who had just surrounded them could only see Liu Chen's back as he left. Chapter 494. At 9:30 a.m. on November 30th, the temporary media conference of the cast of A Chinese Ghost Story was held at the former site of the Fane Temple, which was the movie set. The media conference was held by Liu Chun Studio and Jiayang Pictures. In addition, the Lion Rock Film City Administration also sent a representative to the scene. The media invited to the scene included ATV, Ming Pao, Hong Kong Daily, Polo Daily, Entertainment News, Kowloon Radio Station. Except for a portion of the reporters who had rushed over after receiving the news, most of the others were invited by Zhou Yi using his connections. Otherwise, the major media outlets would not be interested in reporting on the incident itself. Zhou Yi used this opportunity to show off his strength. The layout of the media conference was very simple. There were 2 long tables put together and covered with a cloth as a podium. The chairs that the reporters sat on were temporarily borrowed from the management of the film city, so it looked quite simple. However, there was a projection screen and projector set up behind the podium, which gave people a very different feeling. When it was time, there were about 30 media outlets at the scene with 40 to 50 reporters and photographers. The atmosphere at the scene was quite good, and it was not chaotic. Liu Chan and Zhou Yi were the first to take their seats, followed by Wan Xiaoquan, Chan Wanxiang, and then the representative of the Film City Administration. Finally, a middle-aged woman with gold-rimmed glasses came out and sat on the outermost seat. After Chan Wanxiang sat down, he turned to ask Liu Chan, "Mr. Liu, shall we begin?" Liu Chan nodded seriously. "Okay." Chan Wanxiang coughed. He sat up straight and said into the microphone, "Welcome, friends from the media, to the media conference of the cast of A Chinese Ghost Story. Today, I have invited everyone here mainly to explain the bad things that have happened to our crew in the past few days." Chen Wenxiang had been in the industry for decades and was a true veteran. Although being a spokesman for the crew was not his job, he still did it well. His train of thought was very clear, and he told the ins and outs of the whole incident in detail. In the end, he said indignantly, "Xiangjiang is a legal society, but who would have thought that our crew would encounter such an encounter?" Honghua's bad behavior not only seriously affected the mood of the crew members, but also caused our shooting plan to be interrupted, causing great losses. So here we sincerely ask our friends in the media to uphold justice. As soon as Chen Wenxiang finished speaking, the reporters looked at each other. Many of the reporters present were not very clear about what had happened when they were sent over. They only knew that the crew of a Chinese ghost story had a conflict with someone. Only now did they have a basic understanding. However, this kind of thing did not seem to have much hype value, unless the production crew of a Chinese ghost story wanted to hype it up. They thought that he had understood and was prepared to give him some face and socialize casually. However, the reporters who had witnessed the conflict between the two sides had a lot of questions. Immediately, someone raised his hand and stood up, asking loudly, "Mr. Lu Chun, did you hire a security guard to protect the crew, so that the situation could be settled quickly?" Chen Wenxiang moved the microphone in front of Lu Chun. Lu Chun replied calmly, "The people who subdued the troublemakers weren't the security guards I hired. They were members of the film crew, and I brought them from the mainland." Lu family class? This term was quite fresh, and many reporters were curious. A reporter asked, "Can you introduce the Lu family class in detail?" He had seen the power of the members of the Lu family class with his own eyes. Ordinary martial artists did not have such high combat power. Lu Chun smiled faintly and said, "The Lu family class is a martial arts class that I personally organized and trained. At present, there are a total of 12 members and a head coach. They are responsible for filming the action scenes and stunts involved in the film and TV series." Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lu Chun officially pushed out the Lu family class. Although the Lu family class was still unknown and did not have any works, Lu Chun believed that in a few years, everyone in the Chinese circle would know this name. In the face of the reporters' questions, Lu Chun's answers were always calm and composed. Even if the other party's questions were a little over the top, he would easily avoid the trap, leaving no loopholes for the other party to exploit. If that was all, it would definitely not be enough to form a public opinion attack. Fortunately, Lu Chun had prepared for it. After answering a reporter's question, Lu Chun said seriously, "In fact, as far as this matter itself is concerned, although our crew suffered a certain loss, I believe that with the police handling it, they will definitely be able to seek justice for us. There is no need to mobilize so many people to invite you here." First, he flattered the police a little, and then Lu Chun's words suddenly changed. Was it not to seek justice for himself through the media? The reporters present were stunned. They felt that what Lu Chun said was too hypocritical. If it was not that, then what was it? Lu Chun saw their looks in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He said calmly, "First, please watch a video. It was shot by the staff who stayed behind in our crew through the surveillance this morning. The screen and projector that were set up at the back were finally put to use. Under the control of the crew, the surveillance footage from this morning was quickly displayed in front of everyone's eyes. When the video was taken, it was already dawn. Coupled with the fact that the surveillance equipment was more advanced, the footage was very clear. Everyone could see two people sneaking around the set from outside. They were each holding a plastic bucket and a long plastic bag in their hands. From further away, they could vaguely see that someone was responsible for keeping watch. The truth was soon revealed. One of them opened the bag, picked up a dog corpse inside, and was about to throw it over the wall. However, at that moment, a few of the crew members rushed out and caught the two of them on the spot. The video froze there. Lu Chun turned around and said in a heavy tone, "What really angered me was not the bad behavior of Honghua towards our crew, but the fact that they didn't hesitate to kill small animals to achieve their own goals." As soon as he finished speaking, the scene on the screen instantly changed. "Ah!" There was a sudden scream from the scene. A few female reporters even closed their eyes, as they couldn't bear to watch. What was displayed on the screen was a photo of a dead dog. The photo was very well taken, and it clearly captured the tragic state of the dog. Its body was covered in blood, and the dog's eyes were wide open with its tongue sticking out. There was a bloody hole on its neck that was pierced by a sharp blade. The zoomed-in close-up was very visually impactful. Chapter 495. Using dead cats and dogs to intimidate people was a common tactic used by the members of the gangs. In the past, when the people in the gangs lent money to the loan sharks, the first step was to hang a bloody dead cat on the other party's door, meaning that if they didn't pay the money, the poor cat would be the example. Ever since the triad organization in Xinjiang was severely suppressed, the gangs and societies went from being in the light to being in the dark. Now the usury rarely used this kind of method to collect debts. They changed to splashing red paint on the door of the house and painting big characters. The purpose was the same. However, the method of throwing dead cats and dogs to intimidate people was not extinct, so the media reporters present knew what was going on at a glance. The crew of A Chinese Ghost Story had offended the people from Honghua and was harassed by them in retaliation. This was undoubtedly a very disgusting act. The problem was that the photo that appeared on the 100-inch projection screen was so horrifying that people would have nightmares at night. Therefore, the knowledgeable reporters couldn't help but exclaim in shock. The next moment, the picture displayed on the screen switched. It was also a very bloody picture, and a bucket of dog blood. Lu Chan said in a deep voice, "Xinjiang is a place of law and culture. Modern Xinjiang people are civilized and cultured. When I was in the mainland, I heard that Hong Kong has corresponding protection regulations for small animals and pets. They even set up a pet protection association. Even a stray dog can be properly protected. However, I never thought that in broad daylight, someone would cruelly kill innocent cats and dogs for a moment of pleasure. This is simply intolerable." At this time, the purpose of Lu Chen's media conference was already clear. Chen Wenxiang, the representative of the crew, has already told the ins and outs of the incident, so Lu Chan did not elaborate any further. He also did not shout at the top of his lungs to condemn the harassment of the crew by Honghua, but focused his condemnation on the other party's cruelty to small animals. It was simply a strange peek. None of the reporters present were fools. If they still could not figure out Lu Chen's intentions, they might as well quit the industry because there was no future for them if they were too stupid. If Lu Chen focused on the conflict between the crew and Honghua and hoped to use the media to put pressure on them, it would not have much of an effect. The media was very shrewd and realistic. Zhou had used his connections to get the reporters from the television stations and newspapers to rush over to attend the communication meeting. He had already done his best. The next step was to get many media outlets to create momentum at the same time. That would require a lot of energy. In addition, the news had to be explosive and a hot topic that could be hyped up. The incident of the Chinese Ghost Story crew being defamed was clearly far from meeting the standard. The most important thing was that Lu Chen came from the mainland. With the common xenophobic complex of many people in Hong Kong, when the crew he represented had a conflict with the local community, it was estimated that many people would gloat and be more willing to watch the show. After the reporters went back, they would give a corner of the newspaper the size of a piece of tofu. It was already very nice to say a few words lightly, and it would not have much effect on public opinion. The situation now was completely different. For this, Lu Chen turned sideways. His eyes fell on the middle-aged woman on the far right of the rostrum, and then he continued to say, "I specially sincerely invite Ms. Feng Zhenyun, the deputy chairman of the Little Pet Protection Association of Xinjiang. Let's welcome Ms. Feng to speak." This middle-aged woman was well-dressed. She had a rich face and a cold expression. She gave people the feeling that she was not to be trifled with. Just now, everyone did not pay attention to her. They thought she was one of the members of the crew, but they did not expect her to be the deputy chairman of the Little Pet Protection Association. The full name of the Little Pet Protection Association was the Xinjiang Small Animals/Pets Protection Association. It was established in the 1990s as a non-governmental public welfare organization. Although it did not have a long history, it had a great influence in Xinjiang. Because the members of the Little Pet Protection Association covered the upper, middle and lower levels of society, many celebrities and star artists were volunteers of the Little Pet Protection Association. The wives of many senior government officials in Xinjiang held important positions in the Little Pet Protection Association. Its potential power could be said to be huge. In recent years, Many cases of animal abuse and pet abuse broke out in Xiangjiang, which once became a hot topic in society. Among them, the Little Pet Protection Association could not be separated from it. What made people afraid was that some members of the Little Pet Protection Association protected cats and dogs to an almost abnormal degree. If anyone violated their taboo, it would be really big trouble. There was once a white-collar worker who killed a stray dog. After the incident was exposed, he was besieged by the people of the Little Pet Protection Association. Not only did he lose his job, but he was also forced to kneel at the dog's funeral, which made a lot of noise. Therefore, in the face of the Little Pet Protection Association, which had a mixed reputation, many people could not afford to provoke it and could only hide from it. Even the dog meat stalls in Xiangjiang disappeared, and famous dishes such as dragon and tiger fight also disappeared from the menu. Lu Chun actually invited this great god to attack his opponent. Everyone had a feeling of absurdity in their hearts. Did he have to be so ruthless? But they had to admit that his counterattack was extremely brilliant. Even the underworld could not afford to offend the Little Pet Protection Association. This was an extra-large hornet's nest, which was directly smashed by Lu Chun in Honghua's face, and the evidence was irrefutable. Sure enough, as soon as Ms. Feng Jinyun opened her mouth, she scolded the people of Honghua. She was simply filled with righteous indignation, and she kept scolding for a full 7 or 8 minutes. Her fighting power was so strong that it made people look at her. The reporters still had to listen patiently, because their superiors or the boss's wife might be a member of the Little Pet Protection Association, a volunteer, or a close friend of a member. In Xiangjiang, caring for small animals and pets was the right way of public opinion, and smart people would not do the opposite. As for those gangsters of Honghua, before they caught cats and dogs to torture and scare people, the circuit in their brain probably did not have the existence of the words Little Pet Protection Association. However, these people would soon know how terrifying the existence of the Little Pet Protection Association was. Lu Chun, who gave the microphone to Feng Jinyun, looked solemn on the surface, but in his heart, he was secretly amused. Before he came to Xiangjiang, Chen Feier told him a lot of things about Xiangjiang, including the mention of the Little Pet Protection Association. For example, if a movie or TV needed to use small animals as props, then it must be arranged through the Little Pet Protection Association. Otherwise, once someone complained about animal abuse, there would be a lot of trouble. The movie A Chinese Ghost Story did not need animal actors, but this morning when he came over and saw the 2 dead dogs, he immediately thought of the Little Pet Protection Association, so he inquired about the 24-hour hotline of the Little Pet Protection Association through the voice station and called it. As a result, the other party directly sent a deputy chairman. Chapter 496. The Little Pet Protection Association had the largest number of members among all the civil associations in Hong Kong. Therefore, in addition to the 2 bosses, the president and the chairman, there were 20 or 30 vice-chairmen and directors. People thought that a position with more people was worthless. Those who could be a director in the Little Pet Protection Association were basically celebrities and the families of high-ranking officials in Hong Kong. Needless to say, Feng Jinyun's identity was 100% capable of controlling the situation. The media reporters present knew how powerful she was. They didn't dare to explode or ask sensitive questions. They obediently completed the questioning process of Feng Jinyun so that they could write something when they went back. After Feng Jinyun scolded to her heart's content, she returned the microphone to Lu Chun. Lu Chun said, "Thank you very much, Ms. Feng Jinyun. I think it is the responsibility of the whole society to protect small animals and pets. Similar tragedies or tragedies should not happen again. So on behalf of the crew of A Chinese Ghost Story, I have decided." Speaking of this, Lu Chun's tone paused. The reporters were suddenly refreshed. Their professional sensitivity made them realize that new information was about to be revealed. They heard Lu Chun say, "Hand over the 2 dogs who unfortunately died to the Little Pet Protection Association to bury. In the name of Lu Chun's studio, I will personally donate 5 million to the Little Pet Protection Association as support for the cause of animal protection." 5 million. A lot of people were stunned. Hong Kong was economically developed and was the place where the world-renowned rich lived. It was not big news that celebrities often took out tens of millions or hundreds of millions to do charity donations. Compared with the amount of money donated by these rich people, 5 million was really nothing. But considering the current situation and the object of the donation was the Little Pet Protection Association, Lu Chen's generosity was really big. Lu Chen undoubtedly used this money to declare his determination and confidence to fight to the end with Hong Hua. In Hong Kong, it was recognized common sense not to fight with the rich. With the 5 million Lu Chen spent, at least he had made a big ally in the Little Pet Protection Association, so he definitely couldn't bear the loss in front of him. His opponent was in trouble. Many reporters were gloating for Hong Hua, sympathizing with the latter for choosing the wrong target and catching a big shark. How could someone who could casually take out 5 million be easy to deal with? They quickly recorded it down. These were all revelations that could be used in gossip news. More reporters rushed to stand up and ask questions. Mr. Lu Chen? Lu Chen saw the different performance of these media reporters before and after, and knew that he had made the right move. Although this 5 million donation was a little baffling, the effect it brought was undoubtedly very good. First of all, he had won the support of the Little Pet Protection Association, allowing him to defeat Hong Hua and the Zhang family behind it. Secondly, this sum of money could also be used as a marketing fee for a Chinese ghost story. It was normal to spend another 10 to 20 million on marketing for a movie with an investment of 30 million yuan. 5 million was not much. The most important thing was to let the media hype it up and let the general public in Hong Kong know about it. The money spent would be worth it. The media conference started at 9:30 and ended at 10:45. At the end of the meeting, all the reporters present received a red packet. This was the default rule. However, the reporters no longer cared about the thickness of the red envelope. They were all in a hurry to rush back to their respective places, ready to release the news as soon as possible. Of course, all the media received a copy of the information, which included the surveillance video and the high-definition photos that had been projected and played earlier. It could be said that there were pictures to prove the truth. Lu Chen and Zhou Yi sent Madame Feng Jinyun off together. Watching the other party's car leave, Zhou Yi's mood was extremely complicated. He had never thought that Lu Chen would actually play such a beautiful counterattack, turning Hong Hua's intimidation into a big handle that they could use against him. He reckoned that he would not be able to rest in peace even if he died. The final donation of 5 million made Zhou Yi look at him in a different light. He suddenly realized that he might have underestimated Lu Chen. His previous wavering stance was undoubtedly a mistake. Fortunately, he had come personally in the morning. Thinking quickly, Zhou Yi said decisively, "I will send someone to keep an eye on the media. You don't have to worry about the expenses. I guarantee that it will make the headlines of several newspapers." Making the headlines meant that he had to spend a lot of money. Lu Chen knew that Zhou Yi was expressing his attitude, so he smiled and said, "Then I'll leave it to you, Boss Zhou." Although Zhou Yi's previous performance was not very good, which made Lu Chen unhappy, the other party still chose to stand with him, so the cooperation between the two could still continue. The movie produced by Lu Chen's studio was inseparable from the support of the local film company. The 5 million plus the Little Pet Protection Association and the power of a few photos were quickly shown through the media. The first to leak the news were a few online media, and then there were photos and videos on Hong Kong's forums and blogs, which attracted the attention of many netizens. Especially the bloody and horrifying photos of the dead dog. It aroused the anger of many people. They all left comments online, condemning such inhumane behavior. And this was only the beginning. That night, ATV's Current Affairs channel was the first to report the incident on TV. The next day, Ming Pao, Hong Kong Daily, Polo Daily, and other important newspapers all published the same dog abuse news. Many small and medium-sized newspapers even made the headlines. Public opinion was in an uproar. The proportion of wealthy people in Hong Kong raising pets was very high, especially in the upper class. Those celebrities and rich wives would raise famous dogs and cats. Every year they would hold a pet beauty contest, and the prize money was very high. Therefore, the pet industry in Hong Kong was a very profitable market. The influence of the Little Pet Protection Association had a wide base of people. So when the news of the killing of cats and dogs appeared again, with the media adding fuel to the fire, it naturally caused a wave of public opinion. Could even be said to be a storm. The big newspapers still had a bit of professional ethics. They pixelated a few of the bloody pictures, but the smaller newspapers didn't have so much integrity. They directly published the original pictures, coupled with sensational bold and black headlines, and the effect was very good. The initiator of the incident, Honghua Restaurant, was like a big hornet's nest. That afternoon, the company's gate was surrounded by a group of indignant protesters. A few of the company's gangsters couldn't stand the abuse and wanted to come out with baseball bats to drive the people away. As a result, before they could get out of the gate, they were attacked by rotten tomatoes and rotten eggs like raindrops, and retreated awkwardly. In desperation, the person in charge of the company could only call the police for help. In the end, what they waited for was a summons from the police station, telling them to go to the police station to explain the situation. The dog abuse incident was blown out of proportion. Chapter 497. The Zhang family's mansion was located at 15 Changjia Road, Banshan District. The Banshan District of Hong Kong was a high-class residential area, located between the top of Taiping Mountain and the Central Ring. The location was excellent, and many buildings could directly overlook the busy Victoria Harbour. Therefore, it was favored by Hong Kong's rich and affluent immigrants. There were many historic villas and mansions in the Banshan district, and the Zhang family's mansion was one of them. It was built 50 years ago by the Zhang family's grandfather with all his savings. It was a combination of Chinese and Western style, and it was quite famous among the mansions in the Banshan district. The Zhang family had gone through ups and downs for decades, and there was a time when they were close to bankruptcy. However, the Zhang family had never thought of selling this valuable ancestral house, because this big house represented the roots of the Zhang family, and it was a symbol of the spirit of maintaining the unity of the family. Only those who lived in the Zhang family's mansion were qualified to lead the entire Zhang family. Zhang Changhua moved out of the Zhang family's mansion 10 years ago. As an independent child, he rarely came back unless it was necessary. This was because this luxurious and imposing mansion always gave him an oppressive feeling, making it difficult for him to breathe. He didn't know how comfortable it was to live outside. But today he had no choice but to come, because the owner of this mansion, his father, was in a terrible rage. The moment he stepped into the gate, Zhang Changhua couldn't help but smile bitterly. If there was medicine for regret in the world, he would buy one even if it cost him tens of millions of yuan to turn back time to a week ago. In this way, Zhang Changhua could prevent a tragedy from happening. As the boss of Honghua Restaurant, he had been under great pressure from all sides in the past few days. Zhang Changhua really didn't expect that a small matter that he thought could be easily solved would turn into a storm of public opinion against him. The dog abuse incident had been hyped up in Hong Kong, and Honghua Company had been thrown a lot of rotten eggs and rotten tomatoes, forcing them to temporarily close down. And he himself had become a street rat. His fair-weather friends had all avoided him, and the beautiful women who often appeared around him had all disappeared. Everyone was afraid to avoid him. When did Zhang Changhua fall into such a situation? Things happened too fast, and the opponent's means of stirring up public opinion was simply vicious. They took advantage of the negligence of his people and directly nailed Honghua Company to the pillar of shame, and became the target of tens of thousands of people's curses. Now the fire had spread to the Zhang family. After all, his surname was Zhang. The more Zhang Changhua thought about it, the angrier he felt. He couldn't help but pull the tie around his neck. "Young master son, you're here?" The white-haired butler was waiting in the hall. He looked at Zhang Changhua with a slightly reproachful gaze and said softly, "Young master is waiting for you in the study. He hasn't eaten today, so don't make him angry again." Zhang Changhua had always been arrogant and unyielding, but in front of this senior statesman who had served the Zhang family for 50 years and had served forefather Zhang Chenghua's grandfather, and was now serving Zhang Chenghua's father Zhang Tai, Zhang Changhua did not dare to be rude. "Ninth uncle, I know I was wrong." The old housekeeper smiled and said, "It's good that you know you were wrong. Quickly go in." Zhang Changhua agreed and hurried to the study on the second floor. When he arrived at the study, Zhang Changhua knocked on the door and entered. He saw his father sitting behind the desk. There were 7 or 8 people sitting on the left and right, including his 2 brothers and several executives of the Zhang group. Everyone's eyes fell on him. Some were sympathetic, some were condemning, some were hating him for failing to meet their expectations, and some were gloating. The ones who were gloating were undoubtedly his 2 brothers, who were outwardly harmonious but inwardly hostile. Seeing such a situation, Jiang Changhua really wanted to retreat immediately. However, under Jiang Tai's fierce gaze, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and greet him. "Father, are you looking for me?" Jiang Tai snorted and said, "I know it's very difficult for me to invite you, the third young master of the Jiang family. However, our Jiang family has reached a moment of life and death. You are also a member of the Jiang family. You can't just stay out of it, right?" Life and death. Jiang Changhua was shocked. Was the matter so serious? Although the dog abuse incident by the Honghua employees had put him in a passive position, there was still a way to solve it. Anyway, the people who did it had been detained by the police. They could just directly plead guilty and pay compensation. As for the public opinion, as long as they were sincere in admitting their mistakes and spent more money to clear up the media, the situation would actually pass quickly. It was impossible for everyone to keep staring at this matter. The Little Pet Protection Association was a very big problem. However, the Jiang family could completely contact them through various connections. It was just a little bit of money and they would naturally be able to pass. No matter what, it was impossible to shake the foundation of the Jiang family. "Father, I'm already thinking of a way to solve this matter. It's nothing more than lowering our heads and admitting our mistakes." Jiang Changhua asked in disbelief. "Do you want the Jiang family to pay with our lives just because you killed a few dogs?" Jiang Tai's face was as still as water. He did not speak. A middle-aged man sitting on his left coughed and said, "Third young master, the 2 factories we invested in on the mainland were raided by the tax bureau yesterday. The financial accounts have been seized. We may face a heavy fine." In addition, the Environmental Protection Bureau also came today to conduct a major environmental inspection. This time Jiang Changhua was really confused. Since the reform and opening up, the economic development level of the mainland had been growing rapidly. The huge market, rich products, and human resources had made the mainland the first choice for Xiangjiang entrepreneurs to invest. The top 10 richest people in Xiangjiang all had a lot of investments in the mainland. They relied on the mainland to earn astronomical wealth. Of course, the Jiang family would not miss the opportunity to make a fortune. As early as 20 years ago, they began to follow the trend. A few years ago, the Jiang's group, which had tasted the sweetness of the new wave of economic growth in the mainland, had invested in the construction of 2 new large-scale factories in the mainland. They had only recently put into production and sales. The 2 projects had hooked up most of the Jiang family's funds, including a bank loan of hundreds of millions. Seeing that they had begun to make profits, they had unexpectedly been raided by the tax bureau. Jiang Changhua was very clear that the 2 large factories of his family in the mainland, whether it was tax or environmental protection, were 100% fishy. Once they were checked, they would definitely be found out. This was actually a common problem of many Xiangjiang enterprises investing in the mainland. However, the local government often turned a blind eye to the economic development. As long as it was not too excessive, they could get by. Moreover, the Jiang's group also paid great attention to the communication with the local government agencies. But now something had happened. Jiang Qinghua's intuition told him that the Jiang's group's investment projects being checked in the mainland could not be separated from the matter of him dealing with the small film crew. Although this association was very absurd and unbelievable, Jiang Changhua did not think of other possibilities. Chapter 498. It's all your fault. Jiang Tai's thunderous roar made Jiang Qinghua's premonition come true. It really did have something to do with Lu Chan. But he couldn't understand and couldn't help saying, "How is that possible? I've had people investigate him. He's just a small-time artist from the mainland. He just debuted and he's already hooked up with a female star. Where did he get so much power?" Someone who could make the Tax Bureau and the Environmental Protection Bureau move out one after another to find trouble with a Hong Kong company with a huge investment was definitely not something an ordinary person in power could do. It must have been incited by the higher-ups of the mainland. Jiang Changhua wasn't a fool. Before he dealt with the crew of a Chinese ghost story, he had learned about Lu Chen's situation. Now it seemed that he had most likely been deceived, or that the other party's background was too deep. At this moment, Jiang Changhua felt really helpless. Jiang Tai sneered. "Investigated? You believe whatever people say. You don't even know that you've been played." Jiang Chenghua's heart jumped. His father was clearly implying something. He didn't deal with Lu Chun on his own. He had been incited and promised benefits. Jiang Tai obviously already knew the truth, and Jiang Tai's sarcasm and rebuke aroused Jiang Chenghua's rebellious mentality. Not necessarily. Then brother Dong. Brother my ass. Jiang Tai was furious. He grabbed the ashtray on the desk and smashed it at Jiang Chenghua. Bang! Accompanied by a muffled sound, Jiang Chenghua's forehead was smashed by the crystal ashtray, and dark red blood immediately flowed down. His body swayed, but he actually endured it without making a sound. The rest of the people present were all startled. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. Seeing his son's miserable condition, Jiang Tai, who had impulsively attacked, more or less regretted it. He sat down dejectedly and said, "Wipe your own *T. I'll deal with the mainland. The other party has already sent word through a middleman." Jiang Chenghua didn't even wipe the blood on his face. He asked, "What did they say?" Jiang Tai said lightly, "This is just a warning. If something like this happens again, the Jiang family should never come to the mainland again." Jiang Chenghua nodded silently. The blood flowed to his lips. It was salty and exceptionally bitter. He opened his mouth with difficulty and said, "I know what to do." Nowadays, Xiangjiang was already inseparable from the mainland. If the families in Xiangjiang only did business in Hong Kong, then they would never be able to become big. The Zhang's group had placed a heavy bet on the mainland. Once they were obstructed by the higher-ups, then the loss would be immeasurable. Once the news of the two factories being investigated got out, the stock price of the Zhang's group would definitely plummet. It's never too late to mend the pen after the sheep are lost. Jiang Tai waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. With heavy footsteps, Jiang Chenghua left the Jiang family mansion. At this moment, he hated the fellow who had instigated him to the bone. Of course, the most important thing for him right now was to calm down this storm and obtain forgiveness from Lu Chen's side. As for how to do it, Jiang Chenghua thought about it. Killing someone was just a matter of nodding his head. At most he would just kneel down. While Jiang Chenghua was struggling to think of a solution, as the other party to the incident, Lu Chun was dealing with the backlog of documents in the office of his own studio. Because the dog abuse incident was too big, coupled with the previous incident, the morale of the crew had collapsed and many people had left, so Lu Chun simply stopped filming and let Chen Wanxiang and Wan Xiaoquan be responsible for reorganizing and recruiting new staff. He himself returned to the studio, ready to restart filming in a few days when the situation was clear. In addition, Lu Chun was also waiting for the reaction of Honghua, or the Zhang family. In this invisible war, he now had the upper hand, so naturally there was no need to be anxious. The anxious one should be Jiang Chenghua and his father. Ring ring ring. As soon as Lu Chun finished signing a document, the mobile phone beside the computer rang. After he came to Xiangjiang, he bought a new mobile phone and number locally for daily use. Usually when Chen Wanxiang, Wan Xiaoquan, or Li Zhan wanted to find him, they would call this work phone. In recent days, this work phone had been ringing non-stop, most of which were media interviews. Lu Chun simply left it to his assistant. Out of sight, out of mind, so as not to disturb his work. But now it was his private phone that was ringing, and it was either a family member or a friend. The name displayed on the phone made Lu Chun laugh. He immediately picked it up and asked with a smile, "Child Bai, why do you call me?" The Child Bai in Lu Chun's mouth referred to Li Mubai, which was a teasing nickname for friends, different from that of others. Since coming to Xiangjiang, Lu Chun and Li Mubai had basically not contacted each other. When he returned to the capital, he heard from Pastor Li that this guy had taken his girlfriend to Hawaii to play, and would not come back until he was tanned. "Brother Chun." Li Mubai's familiar voice came from the phone, but the content was very scary. "I'm downstairs in your studio." "Ah." Lu Chun was suddenly stunned. "I'm in Xiangjiang, not in the capital. Aren't you in Hawaii?" "I just came back the day before yesterday," Li Mubai said with a smile. "I know you are in Xiangjiang. I am in Xiangjiang now, in the Rongjin building. The guards here don't let me in without an appointment, otherwise I will come directly to your studio." Li Mubai actually came here. Lu Chun was a little dizzy and said quickly, "Okay, wait a minute. I'll come down right away." If it were other uninvited guests, he would let Li Zhan receive them, but Li Mubai was different. The two were real friends. Li Mubai came back from Hawaii and came to Xiangjiang to find him. How could he sit still in the office? He must go down to meet him in person. After ending the call, Lu Chan immediately left the studio and took the elevator down to the hall on the first floor of the building. The management of the Rongjin building was very strict. Visitors without an appointment must contact the tenants at the entrance of the hall and get permission to go up. This put an end to the disturbance of idle people. When the elevator door opened, Lu Chan saw Li Mubai standing at the entrance. This guy with a coquettish temperament was like a firefly in the dark. It was easy to distinguish him in the crowd. However, Lu Chen's attention did not stay on Li Mubai for a long time. He was soon attracted by the woman wearing sunglasses and a long skirt standing next to Li Mubai. The other party was so familiar. Even if the huge sunglasses covered her real face, Lu Chan could still recognize her identity in an instant. The huge and unexpected surprise made him feel like he was about to fly. Chapter 499. Seeing Lu Chan, the woman in the long dress reached out and took off her sunglasses, showing a sweet smile. Her smile was nothing more than this. There was no one else in Lu Chen's eyes. He couldn't help but speed up to her. He resisted the urge to hold her in his arms, held her hand and said, "Why are you here?" The beautiful woman in the white dress was Chan Fei. Filming on the Mongolian prairie, her skin was a little tanned, but this did not damage her charm at all. Instead, it showed her healthy beauty and vitality. Every frown and every smile was still so moving. Lu Chan didn't expect that Chen Fei would come to Hong Kong with Li Mubai. Chen Fei let Lu Chan hold her hands, stared at him affectionately, and said with a chuckle, "I finished my scenes on the prairie, and the director gave me half a month's vacation, so I came here. You didn't tell me about such a big thing. It was Sister Mushy who told me." When she said the last sentence, she rolled her eyes at Lu Chan angrily. Lu Chan smiled bitterly and said nothing. He didn't tell Chen Fei, of course, because he was afraid that she would worry and affect the shooting of the TV series. He just didn't expect that it was Li Mushy who told her. Hey. Li Mubai, who was ignored, was dissatisfied. "Please don't show off your love here." Lu Chan laughed, turned around and gave him a big hug. "Welcome to Hong Kong." Li Mubai also rolled his eyes. "I'm more familiar with Hong Kong than you are, okay? I have a lot of friends here." Lu Chan admitted defeat. "Let's go up and talk." Of course, Li Mubai and Chen Fei were not alone. They each brought their assistants. Chen Fei was accompanied by 2 female bodyguards. There were 6 or 7 people in total. In the elevator, Lu Chan asked Li Mubai, "I heard from your sister that you went to Hawaii for your honeymoon?" "What honeymoon? Nonsense." Li Mubai grinned. "I'm just accompanying my friend to have some fun and relax." Although he said they were friends, he couldn't hide the proud expression on his face. It was probably because he was in love. Lu Chan asked, "Why don't you bring her to Xiangjiang?" Li Mubai said helplessly, "She has something to do at home. Chan Qian wants to come, but she knows that your girlfriend." Ahem. He coughed twice and secretly glanced at Chen Fei next to him. Lu Chan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It made it seem as if he and Chan Qian had an unusual relationship. She was afraid of Chen Fei, his real girlfriend, so she didn't dare to follow him. It was simply a deliberate attempt to defame him. To be honest, his impression of that rebellious girl was a little blurry. Chen Fei's eyes twinkled, and there was a faint smile on his face. Fortunately, they arrived at the floor where the studio was located. The elevator door opened and everyone filed out. "You've done a good job here." Under the guidance of Lu Chan, the group of people first visited Lu Chen's studio. When the employees knew that Lu Chen's girlfriend, the future proprietress, had come in person, they all greeted her respectfully and warmly. Chen Fei responded gracefully, which made the atmosphere in the studio particularly harmonious. After the visit, the 3 of them sat down in Lu Chen's office. Li Mubai unceremoniously occupied Lu Chen's seat and drove him and Chen Fei to the sofa. Then he patted the table and said, "I'm going to open an office in Xiangjiang, hire 17 or 18 employees, and let them call me boss every day. Ha ha." Lu Chan was speechless. "Have you been too free recently?" If possible, he wanted to drive this extra-large third wheel out now, so as not to affect the joy and sweetness of his reunion with Chen Fei after a long time. Li Mubai said with a smile. Do you think I'm joking? I'm serious. I'm not here for fun this time. First of all, I'm going to set up Mukin Crowdfunding's Xiangjiang branch, and then operate Mukin Crowdfunding to be listed on the Hong Kong stock market. Listed on the Hong Kong stock market? Lu Chun was really surprised. It should be known that Mukin Crowdfunding has only been established for more than a year. Li Muxi actually started to operate the Hong Kong stock market. Xiangjiang stock market has a long history and strong international connection. Compared with the domestic stock market, it is more mature and rational. Therefore, many domestic powerful enterprises have been listed on the Hong Kong stock market. Originally, Li Muxi told Lu Chun that she intended to be listed on the domestic growth enterprise market. As a result, she suddenly jumped to Xiangjiang. The starting point was undoubtedly higher. Once the listing was successful, then Mukin Crowdfunding, which had obtained a lot of funds, would surely soar. This matter is very complicated. We'll talk about it later. Li Mubai waved his hand and said to Lu Chun in a very dissatisfied tone, You're shooting a movie in Xiangjiang and someone is looking for trouble. I can understand why you didn't tell Sister Fei but why didn't you call your brother? In the end, he was filled with righteous indignation. He almost pointed at Lu Chen's nose and said that he had no brothers in his eyes. Not loyal. Lu Chun said with a wry smile. In fact, it's not a big deal. I want to solve it by myself first. If it doesn't work, I will definitely ask you for help. When he was maliciously provoked by Hong Hua, Lu Chun also had the idea of asking the Li family for help. But as the saying goes, it's better to ask for help than to ask for help. He couldn't ask for help from others when he encountered a little difficulty, so this idea only flashed in his mind for a moment. In the end, he relied on his own strength to complete a beautiful counterattack against Hong Hua. Now Hong Hua was like a drowning dog. He had become the target of everyone in Xiangjiang. Even Zhou admired his means, which proved that as long as the method was used correctly, any problem was not difficult to solve. The Jiang family still has some power in Xiangjiang. Li Mubai obviously already knew the background of Hong Hua. He said seriously, which was rare for him, but you don't have to worry. They should take the initiative to come to apologize to you soon. Lu Chen's heart skipped a beat. He asked, What did you do? If Li Mubai said so, it must have nothing to do with the matter of him using the little pet to deal with Hong Hua. Li Mubai said with a smile, Nothing much. I just asked someone to help me check the 2 big factories that the Zhang's group invested in the mainland. Lu Chun was really shocked. Isn't this too much? It was originally a small matter of collecting protection fees, but now it turned into the Li family dealing with the Zhang family. The matter was completely out of Lu Chen's control. Li Mubai said proudly, Bullying you is bullying me. Bullying me is bullying our Li family. I can't say that I can deal with the Zhang family in Xiangjiang, but in the mainland Lu Chun was speechless, but he was grateful. At this time the phone on the desk rang, and the indicator light showed that it was from the internal line. Lu Chun motioned to Li Mubai to help connect it. The phone was from the receptionist. Young Master Lu. A Mr. Zhang of the Zhang family wants to see you. Before Lu Chun could answer, Li Mubai said first, Tell him to get out. Chapter 500. Coincidentally, when Lu Chun was talking to Li Mubai about the Zhang's group, the Zhang sent someone to the door. Li Mubai directly made the decision for Lu Chun and asked the other party to leave. The receptionist didn't know Li Mubai's background. She could tell that it wasn't Lu Chen's voice, so she didn't dare to agree. Lu Chun had to say, Since there's no appointment, ask him to go back first. Just say that I'm not here. This time the receptionist got the order. Li Mubai said disdainfully, What kind of person dares to talk to me face to face? Since you want to settle the trouble, then do it according to the rules of the underworld. It was the tone of a gangster boss. Lu Chun asked with a smile, What kind of gangster rule is that? Serve wine and tea as an apology. Li Mubai said matter-of-factly, At least let the Zhang's family invite a respected senior to come out and talk to us. Otherwise, how can they get through this easily? Lu Chun admired the gangster style of the 3rd young master of the Li family, and gave him a thumbs up. Li Mubai was finally a little embarrassed and said with a smile, I also heard it from my friends in Xiangjiang before. I haven't seen it myself, but it can't be wrong. Anyway, the other party must give enough face. Now it depends on whether the other party is sincere or not. Chun Fei asked curiously, "Do you have a lot of friends in the underworld in Xiangjiang?" Li Mubai scratched his head and said, "Not many, just some fair-weather friends." He jumped up from Lu Chen's seat and said, "Brother Chun, Sister Fair, I won't disturb you too lovey-dovey. I'm going to play with my friends." Lu Chun was surprised. "Don't be in such a hurry. Let's have dinner together. By the way, where will you stay tonight?" Although Li Mubai was a bit of an eyesore now, he helped Lu Chun find trouble with the Zhang's family in the mainland, which was undoubtedly a real friendship. How could Lu Chun let him run away like this? That would be too much. Li Mubai smiled and said, "Brother Chun, I'm more familiar with Xiangjiang than you are. My brother has a big house here. Let's change the dinner to tomorrow. I've already made an appointment with my friends in Xiangjiang before I came. They've prepared a lot of programs." He glanced at Chun Fei maliciously and said, "If Sister Fei didn't come, I would definitely take you to play with me, so let's save it for today." Lu Chun was really impressed by him. "Well then you can't stand me up again tomorrow night." Li Mubai made an okay gesture to him, and then left the studio with his assistant. The relationship between Lu Chun and Li Mubai didn't need too much courtesy, so Lu Chun walked him to the door and came back. After closing the door, he impatiently pulled Chun Fei into his arms and kissed her on the lips. Chun Fei giggled and catered to him coquettishly and softly, letting Lu Chun have enough of her gentle and sweet taste. It was a pity that this was the office and they couldn't go too far. After a few minutes of tenderness and intimacy, Lu Chun reluctantly let go of the beauty in his arms. If they continued, he really couldn't control himself. "Let's go." He took Chun Fei's hand and said, "Let's go home." Lu Chun asked Li Zhan to settle down Chun Fei's 2 bodyguards and assistants. He drove back to his home in Repulse Bay with his girlfriend and enjoyed the wonderful time alone as he wished. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. When the two ended their passionate entanglement, it was already dark. On the soft and comfortable big bed, Chun Fei leaned in Lu Chen's arms, naughtily drawing circles on his strong chest with her fingers, while telling Lu Chun about what happened after Lu Chen's visit last time. Filming on location was very hard work. The role that Chun Fei played was very important, and the director's requirements were very high. She gritted her teeth and persevered. Finally, she successfully finished her scenes and got half a month's vacation. The shooting cycle of a big drama like Golden Long Songs was calculated in years. There were many characters involved, the plot was complicated, and the details were exquisite. Naturally, the requirements for the actors were very high. So although she suffered a lot, through this sharpening, Chun Fei's acting skills had greatly improved, and she was recognized by the director and her colleagues. She was still very proud of this. After listening to Chun Fei's story, Lu Chun kissed her on the face and said, "It's worth praising. Then I'll take you to a big meal to reward you." Chun Fei coquettishly rolled her eyes at him and said, "Do you think I'm a little girl?" Although she said so, she still got up and dressed happily. She dressed up again and went out with Lu Chun. Both of them were well-known stars in the mainland. In Xiangjiang, they were not as famous as the big stars in Hong Kong, so they didn't have to worry about running into crazy fans on the road. In addition, it was night, so they didn't wear sunglasses and masks. In fact, Chun Fei came to Xiangjiang far more often than Lu Chun, and she also bought a house in Xiangjiang, so she was more familiar with Xiangjiang than Lu Chun. As a result, she even found the place to eat. The two had a warm and sweet seafood dinner together, and then walked around Central while holding hands. In the luxury store at the Landmark Square, Lu Chun also bought her the latest bag. It was already late at night when they returned home. After washing up, they went to bed. When he woke up the next morning, Lu Chun reached out and touched his girlfriend who was sleeping beside him. He felt like he was dreaming. As he touched the fire and woke Chun Fei up. Then in her coquettish voice, the passionate scene played again. The two were like all young couples in love, never tired of loving each other. It was not until 9 o'clock in the morning that Lu Chun turned on his 2 mobile phones. As a result, his work mobile phone had just been turned on, and only a few seconds later, a call came in. The call was from Chan Wenxiang, who called Lu Chun. The director of the studio couldn't contain his excitement and said, "Young Master Lu, Honghua has admitted defeat. Jiang Changhua sent a message through a middleman. They are willing to hold a feast to apologize to you. Chen Wenxiang had been under a lot of pressure some time ago. He was the last person he wanted to see Lu Chen's movie go wrong, because it was not only related to his job, but also affected his beloved daughter's future in the film and television industry. Although Lu Chen had completed a beautiful counterattack, Chen Wenxiang was secretly worried that it would completely anger the Jiang family and bring more trouble to the crew. So when he received the news this morning, he couldn't believe his ears. Jiang Changhua admitted defeat just like that. Chen Wenxiang, who didn't know the deeper inside story, was extremely happy. He called Lu Chen again and again to tell him the good news. Until now the call went through. Li Mubai was right. Lu Chen wasn't surprised. He gave Chen Wenxiang a few instructions and hung up. However, just as he put down his mobile phone, it rang again. This time it was Zhou Yi. Chapter 501. Zhou Yi told Lu Chen over the phone that Jiang Changhua from Honghua had invited an old senior to apologize to Lu Chen through him and arrange a banquet at the Hentang Hotel tomorrow night to apologize to Lu Chen in person. This senior was highly respected in the circle and was very famous. Zhou Yi could be considered as his junior. Jiang Changhua had probably paid a very high price to bring out this god, and it also proved his sincerity. Lu Chen thought for a while and said, "All right then, I'll also give face to the senior and come on time tomorrow night." "That's really great," Zhou Yi said with a smile. Jiang Changhua almost kowtowed to the ground. "It's not good for us to be ruthless. Harmony breeds wealth. By the way, when will we start filming again?" Zhou Yi was actually a proud person, but his pride had always been hidden in his bones and he would not easily show it. There were really not many people in the Xiangjiang industry who could catch his eye. But for Lu Chen, a young man who was more than 10 years younger than him, he was now really convinced. His original thoughts had long disappeared, and he sincerely wanted to continue this cooperation. Lu Chen replied, "We'll resume filming today." Time was precious and could not afford to waste any time. Being delayed by Honghua for a week, the loss of money was secondary. The key was that the filming plan was disrupted, which made Lu Chen quite angry. Now that Jiang Changhua had admitted defeat, it was reasonable for the crew to resume filming today. Zhou Yi asked with concern, "Have you found the actress who will play the role of Grandma Tree Fairy?" Lu Chen could not help but feel a little strange. Although Zhou Yi had acquired Jiang Pictures and became the boss of this old film company, he actually did not know much about movies. The specific matters were naturally done by his subordinates, and he never asked about the details. Lu Chen had dealt with him a few times and had a certain understanding of him, so he was very puzzled. "Not yet, but it won't affect the resumption of filming today. Is there a problem?" Zhou Yi said a little helplessly. "It's nothing much. Lu Jiahui looked for me and said that he wanted to return to the crew. He even said that he wanted to serve tea to you as an apology. He's an old friend of mine and begged me with tears and snot." Lu Jiahui was the actor recommended by Jiang Pictures to play the role of Granny Treyant. Like Ma Rongjin, he was an experienced actor. However, an experienced actor might not have the strength of character. Under the threat of Honghua and the Jiang family, he was the first to retreat. Now that he had changed his mind and wanted to return to the cast, he must have heard the news. Lu Chen replied without hesitation, "I can't afford to invite this person. You can reply for me." What kind of joke was this? If such a person was allowed to return, what would the people in the crew think? Lu Chen was not a good guy without principles. Zhou Yi was not surprised by Lu Chen's rejection. He smiled and said, "All right, I'll reject him. Actually, it's not like he has to come back. He's just a little scared." Lu Chen thought for a while and immediately understood what Zhou Yi meant. Lu Jiahui had taken the initiative to withdraw from the cast because he was afraid of Honghua and the Jiang family. Now that Lu Chen's side had obviously won, he was afraid that Lu Chen would settle the score after the fall, so he put down his pride and begged Zhou Yi. Returning to the cast was not his goal. His real goal was to beg for mercy. Understanding the key point, Lu Chen was really disgusted with Lu Jiahui. "Let's not talk about this person anymore. It's boring." Zhou Yi understood. "All right. Let's meet at the Hentang Hotel tomorrow night." After hanging up, Lu Chen said to Chanfer, who had finished dressing up, "Let's go." Chanfair was sitting in front of the dressing table. She tilted her head and was putting on the last earring. She asked curiously, "Your crew is still short of actors?" Luchan nodded and said, "Someone was originally chosen for Granny Treyant, but they withdrew later." Luchan did not say much about the specifics. Anyway, Lu Jiahui had already been included in his list of people he would never work with. Granny Treyant? Chanfair had read the script of a Chinese ghost story, so she quickly remembered. The villain boss. Luchan smiled and said, "Yes, there are more scenes, so we have to choose a more reliable one." He had already asked Chun Wencheng to handle the matter of the new casting. He believed that there would be some progress soon. Chanfair blinked and suddenly said, "I'll play Granny Treyant, what do you think?" Ah! Luchan was caught off guard by her sudden idea. "What did you say?" Chanfair smiled and said, "I said I'll play Granny Treyant. I have half a month's vacation. If I hurry up, it shouldn't be a problem to finish my scenes during this period, right?" Of course, time was not a problem. The story of a Chinese ghost story was very strong, but the background of the story was fictitious. There were very few scenes involved, so it was not complicated to shoot. Everything could be settled in Lion Rock film and television. It was just that the post-production special effects would be a little troublesome. Half a month's time would be enough if it was all used on Chanfei. However, Luchan did not even think about it. How can that do? Isn't that making you destroy your own image? No. It should be known that he originally thought of letting Chanfair play the role of Nie Xiaoqian, but due to the scheduling inconsistency and the audience's aesthetic fatigue, Chanfair did not follow him to Hong Kong. Now that he had asked her to play Granny Treyant, the change in style was too drastic. Luchan was worried that it would have a negative impact on Chanfair's image. However, Chanfair was very serious. "I think there's no problem. A real actor can't be fixed in the same role forever. You can play the positive character, but you can also play the negative character vividly. I'm very willing to accept such a challenge." As she said that, she got up and leaned into Lu Chen's arms. She said softly, "You've done so much for this movie. I hope I can help you." In order to shoot this a Chinese ghost story, Lu Chen had started to lose weight more than a month ago. He had lost more than 10 pounds by now. He was not that kind of strong body, so now he looked a little more gentle and weak, which was in line with the needs of the characters in the movie. He came to Hong Kong alone to work hard and tried to integrate into the circle of Hong Kong. He established Luchan Film Studio from scratch and looked for people to cooperate with to film a movie. He also encountered the provocation of gangs and clubs. This road was not smooth. As a friend of Luchan, Li Mubai had made a big move to deal with the Jiang family in the mainland and helped Luchan deal with his opponents. As Luchan's closest lover, how could she stand by and watch? Destroy his own image? That was not necessarily the case. If the villain was played well, it could also improve his image. Needless to say, Luchan understood Chanfair's intentions. He hugged the beautiful woman in his arms and felt happy in his heart. He hoped that time would stop at this moment forever.